Chapter 604. Please ask Juzzy. Li Zixuan heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Mo Huai's affirmative answer. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel shocked. Since Mo Huai said so, didn't it mean that people in this era were really beginning to understand what the universe was? This made Li Zixuan feel incredulous. The second question, what is force? Li Zixuan was shocked, but how could Mo Huai not be? He had read the definition of the universe from Mo's handwritten notes. He thought that this question alone would make Li Zixuan retreat. He didn't expect Li Zixuan, a 14 or 15-year-old kid, to be able to turn the tables. This made Mo Huai very puzzled. After thinking for a while, Mo Huai asked the second question. Force? Is it the force of force? Li Zixuan suspected that he had heard wrong and asked uncertainly. Mo Huai nodded and said, yes. Li Zixuan smiled and answered, force is the interaction between several objects. Interaction refers to the movement of an object that changes due to the existence of other objects. Objects only have two attributes, mass and speed. Therefore, force can change the state of motion of an object. If the speed of increase is defined as acceleration, then for the same object, the greater the force it receives, the greater its acceleration will be. Li Zixuan talked nonstop about all the knowledge points about force in the physics books of the later generations into words that the ancients could understand. Li Gang, who was listening at the side, was confused, not knowing what the hell Li Zixuan was talking about. Mo Huai, on the other hand, narrowed his eyes and stared at Li Zixuan with an extremely solemn expression. At this moment, it was as if his heart had experienced a violent storm, and he was unable to calm down for a long time. The ancestor of the Mahist family, Moz, once had a detailed definition of force in the Mahist classics. He said, force is the reason for the movement of an object. In other words, force was the reason for the movement of an object, even if the action of the object's movement was called force. In this regard, he gave an example and said that it was like lifting a heavy object from bottom to top. It could only be done because of the action of force. At the same time, Moz pointed out that when an object was under force, it also produced a reaction force. For example, after two objects of equal mass collided, the two objects would move in opposite directions. If the difference in mass between two objects was great, although the object with greater mass would not move after the collision, the reaction force would still exist. Then, Moz gave the definitions of movement and stop. He believed that movement was due to force pushing and stop was the end of an object's motion after a certain period of time. Although Moz didn't clearly point, he realized that the object's motion after the external force, he realized that the object's state of motion could not exist forever after the external force disappeared. To a certain extent, Moz's research in the field of physics and mechanics was definitely more than 2,000 years ahead of the entire world. If the Mahist family could replace the Confucian family and become the orthodox school of physics, then China would very likely become the origin and prosperity of the world's physics. After a full quarter of an hour, Li Zixuan finally stopped. The two young men, Mo Zhong and Mo Yun, no longer looked at Li Zixuan with contempt. As the core disciples of the Mahist family, they certainly had a certain understanding of Mozi's handwritten notes and works. However, they spent most of their time learning martial arts. In comparison, their knowledge in this area was far inferior to Li Zixuan. Mo Zhong and Mo Yun, who had always flaunted themselves as the children of reclusive masters, felt very hurt in their hearts. They couldn't win in terms of martial arts, let alone in terms of knowledge. Mo Huai closed his eyes and digested what Li Zixuan had just said in his heart, trying to find some loopholes in it. However, after a long while, he opened his eyes somewhat dispiritedly, because he found that what Li Zixuan had just said was not only impeccable, but also more detailed than what was recorded in the ancient books of the Mahist family. He even went a step further in explaining and proving some of the concepts. He had never heard of some of them, but he had to admit that Li Zixuan's words were very reasonable. Li Xianan, you got this question right. Mo Huai looked at Li Zixuan with a complicated expression and said, although there were rare copies of the Mahist classics circulating in the world, in the social context of Confucianism, how many people in the world would read such an obscure book? Moreover, Li Zixuan's theories had clearly surpassed the definition of force in the Mahist classics. He had expanded force into a complete and detailed knowledge on the basis of Mahist classics. Where did Li Zixuan's knowledge come from? Why did he know so many things? There were many questions buried in Mo Huai's heart, but now was obviously not the time to ask, so he could only endure it. Li Zixuan smiled slightly. He was really liking this Mahist master in front of him more and more now. Where could he find such an advanced physics teacher? Li Gang had helped him a lot this time. The person involved, Li Gang, was now dumbfounded. He really wanted to ask Mo Huai, how did he get it right? He didn't understand at all just now. Mo Huai put his hands behind his back and walked 2 steps on the spot. Then, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He turned to Li Zixuan and asked, third question, put a small hole behind an open candle. What is the phenomenon behind the small hole? With that, he stared at Li Zixuan. Although he knew the answer to this question from the Mahist classics, he only knew how and did not know why. He planned to make things difficult for Li Zixuan later. Li Zixuan widened his eyes. He now suspected that Mo Huai was a transmigrator. He even knew about the image of a small hole. He was going to ascend to the heavens. What? Mr. Li can't answer? Mo Zhong asked happily when he saw this. Li Zixuan was shocked and speechless, but in Mo Zhong's eyes, he could not answer. Li Zixuan came back to his senses and suppressed the shock in his heart. Then he smiled and said, it's not difficult. There will be an inverted image of a candle flame behind the small hole. As the small hole in the middle moves back and forth, the size of the image will also change. Zhizi, am I right? As a modern engineering student, although Li Zixuan easily answered Mo Huai's question, he had a stomach full of questions like Mo Huai. This was because the image of a small hole involved the knowledge of geometrical optics. How could the people of the Tang Dynasty know about it? However, he did not know that Mo Huai only saw this knowledge from the Mahist classics. The real person who proposed the image of a small hole was Mozi. Not only did Mozi research in mechanics, but he also had deep attainments in geometrical optics. Chapter 605. More than 1,000 years ago, Mozi had conducted an experiment on the imaging of small holes. He clearly pointed out that light traveled in a straight line, and the image formed by an object passing through a small hole was an inverted image. This was because when light passed through an object and then passed through a small hole, due to the straight line travel of light, the upper part of the object would be reflected below, and the lower part of the object would be reflected above. He also discussed the relationship between the size of the image, the object's tilt, and the distance of the light source. He pointed out that if an object was tilted or far, the shadow would be long and thin. If it was reflected light, the shadow would be formed between the object and the light source. In addition, MOZ also conducted a systematic research on flat mirrors, concave mirrors, convex mirrors, and so on, and came up with a series of basic principles of geometric optics. He pointed out that flat mirrors formed images of the same size and symmetrical distance, but left and right were reversed. If 2 or more flat mirrors were to face each other and shine light, there would be repeated reflections, forming countless images. The image formed by a concave mirror was a positive image within the middle, a large image if far from the middle, a small image if near the middle, and a large image if near the middle. Outside the middle, an inverted image would be formed, a large image if near the middle, and a small image if far from the middle. A convex mirror only formed a positive image, a large image if near the middle, and a small image if far away. The middle, here was the center of the spherical mirror. Although MOZ had not been able to distinguish the difference between the center of the sphere and the focal point, and had confused the center of the sphere and the focal point together, his conclusion was basically consistent with the imaging principles of modern spherical mirrors. In the history of optics, MOZ was the first scientist to conduct systematic research on geometric optics. It was not an exaggeration to say that MOZ had laid the foundation of geometric optics, at least in China. As Joseph Needham said in the physics volume of the History of Science and Technology in China, Mo's research on optics was earlier than what we know of Greece, and not even India. At this moment, when Mo Huai heard Li Zixuan's answer, he was not as surprised as the previous two times. Instead, he continued to ask, "Why is there an image of an inverted object? If you don't want to explain, you can treat this as my fourth question." Li Zixuan waved his hand and smiled. "No need, no need. Since you want to know why, then I'll explain it to you. It's not considered one of the 5 questions." His desire to rope Mo Huai in was growing stronger and stronger. Therefore, he had changed the way he addressed himself. Although he was confident that he would win this bet, he had to give Mo Huai some face and make him accept his loss wholeheartedly. This way, Mo Huai would be willing to teach his students wholeheartedly in the future. This is not called cowardice, but the demeanor of a winner. Li Gang, on the other hand, frowned slightly. He secretly thought that Li Zixuan was a little careless. However, Mo Huai was also his old friend. He couldn't possibly jump out to stop him at this time, right? Li Zixuan asked Xiao and Ren to bring a brush and ink, then gestured for Mo Huai to come over. He drew the light path diagram of the small hole imaging system and said slowly, "Juzi, please look. This is a candle. The flame of the candle can be seen as composed of many small luminous dots. Each luminous dot emits light in all directions. There will always be a small beam of light that goes straight through the small hole, forming a small luminous spot behind the small hole. Therefore, each luminous dot on the candle flame will form a corresponding luminous spot on the white paper. All the luminous spots on the white paper will form the image of the candle flame on the white paper." After listening to Li Zixuan's explanation, Mo Huai suddenly understood. Now he finally knew how and why. However, at the same time, he looked at Li Zixuan very strangely, as if he was looking at a monster. At this moment, Mo Huai was very curious about Li Zixuan's background. First of all, to be able to become a martial arts master at the age of 14 or 15 was already a special case in the world. However, Li Zixuan actually had such deep attainments in these very obscure fields. He was a dual cultivator of both literature and martial arts, and he could reach an existence that ordinary people could not reach in every aspect. Mo Huai could not imagine what kind of family, what kind of master could teach such a monster. How is it? I wonder if this kid is right. Li Zixuan's scalp tingled under Mo Huai's gaze, so he could not help but ask. Mo Huai nodded silently and did not say a word. Li Zixuan said, "Then, Juzi, please continue with the 4th question." When Mo Huai heard that, he shifted his gaze away from Li Zixuan and sighed deeply. Then he bowed to Li Zixuan and cupped his hands. "There's no need for that. This old man admits defeat. From now on, this old man's old bones will be at your disposal. I don't ask for any remuneration, and I will do whatever you want." "Uncle." "No, uncle, don't." Mo Zhong and Mo Yun were shocked when they saw this, and they shouted one after another. As the Juzi of the Mo family, Mo Huai's knowledge and martial arts were all the role models that they, who adhered to the Mo school, worshipped and chased after since they were young. Now, the godlike man in their eyes actually bowed to a young man of 14 or 15 years old. How could they tolerate this? Although Li Zixuan was indeed very powerful, Mo Zhong and Mo Yun still could not accept this reality. "Shut up. As the Juzi of the Mo family, how can I go back on my words? Mo Zhong, Mo Yun, the two of you can leave first. In the future, this old man will choose the next Juzi of the Mo family." When Mo Huai heard that, he hurriedly reprimanded them loudly. Then he cupped his hands to Li Zixuan and said, "Lord Li, please give this old man a month's time. After this old man returns to the Mo family's encampment and chooses the next Juzi, I will return to Chang and to teach the students wholeheartedly." Now, Mo Huai's gentle pleading was no longer as high-spirited as he was at the beginning. Instead, he looked more like a hero at the end of his road. Li Gang looked at him and could not bear to see this. After all, this was an old friend he had known for many years. Thus, he said, Brother Mo, you don't have to do this. Your position as a Juzi does not conflict with your identity as an instructor at Yanwang College. Xiao Xian is not an unreasonable person. He will not restrict your freedom. You can manage the Mo family's affairs while teaching at Yanwang College. Besides, the Mo family has declined to this day. How many affairs do you still need to manage? The corner of Li Zixuan's mouth curled up. He secretly thought that his opportunity had come. He hurriedly interjected, Mr. Li is right. Juzi, if you go to Yanwang College to teach, this young man will definitely not restrict your freedom. Furthermore, this young man will definitely not shortchange your salary by a single cent. Also, Juzi, you can move the Mo family's encampment to Chang'an. At that time, this young man will be in charge of settling all the followers of the Mo family. If there are any followers of the Mo family who are proficient in mechanics, optics, or machinery like you, this young man is also willing to hire them to Yanhuang College. As for the salary of the teachers at the college, I'm sure you already know about it, so this young man will not repeat it. What do you think? Chapter 606. It had to be said that Li Zixuan's ambition was really big. He wanted to take in all the capable people in the Mo family under his command. Of course, he couldn't be blamed for this. Mo Huai's abilities, especially in astronomy, physics, and optics, made him the perfect candidate for Li Zixuan, who had just finished building Yanhuang College. With Mo Huai's addition, his workload at Yanhuang College would be greatly reduced. After Li Zixuan said that, Mo Zhong and Mo Yun's eyes flashed, and a glimmer of hope appeared on their faces. To put it nicely, they were the core disciples of the Mo family, but their work was no different from that of farmers. They also had to do farming on a regular basis. Otherwise, what would they eat? What would they drink? They would only return to the Mo family when they were not farming to accept the organization's training or other arrangements. They were all capable, but because of their identity as followers of the school of Mo, they had to stay in a desolate place and do hard work. Originally, it wouldn't have been a big deal if they continued like this, but after seeing the prosperity of Chang in city with Mo Huai, their hearts wavered. The suffering of the followers of the school of Mo was something that the disciples of other sects could not understand. Now that Li Zixuan had said this, they could not help but let their imagination run wild. Why couldn't they rely on their own abilities to let their families live a good life? However, although that was what they thought, they wouldn't easily say it out loud. After years of being a follower of the school of Mo, the organization's discipline was deeply engraved in their hearts. Mo Huai frowned. He straightened his body and stared at Li Zixuan seriously. This old man appreciates Lord Li's good intentions. However, as a follower of the school of Mo, I have to wear fur as my clothes and sassafras as my clothes. I have to work day and night, and I have to suffer myself to the extreme. How can I be a follower of the school of Mo if I only covet worldly pleasures? This old man has already violated the school of Mo's laws by agreeing to become an instructor at Yanwang College. In the future, I will no longer be qualified to lead the followers of the school of Mo in the world and carry forward the school of Mo. Therefore, this old man must resign from this position. As for the other followers of the school of Mo, I advise you not to waste your efforts. As soon as Mo Huai finished speaking, Mo Zhong and Mo Yun's faces instantly became 70% ashamed and 30% regretful. They lowered their heads and didn't say a word. Li Gang frowned and said, Younger brother Mo, you're muddle-headed. The Mo clan had hundreds of thousands of disciples during the peak of the pre-Qin dynasty, but now there are less than 100 disciples. Have you not thought about the reason for this? Do you think that the decline of the school of Mo was only caused by the suppression of the various emperors? Mo Huai said indignantly, Isn't that so? If it wasn't for the martial emperor dismissing the 100 schools of thought and respecting only Confucianism, how could Ma's school have fallen to such a state? When Li Gang heard this, he said rather painfully, Ridiculous. I didn't expect Brother Mo to still be unable to see the true reason behind the decline of the Mo family. Fine, this old man will enlighten you. The onlooker sees more clearly than the person involved. Although this old man studies Confucianism, this old man will not help the Confucian school or your school of thought today. This old man will analyze with you as an outsider. You said that the decline of the Confucian school of thought was due to the suppression of the various emperors. However, ever since the martial emperor dismissed the 100 schools of thought and respected only Confucianism, why did the school of thought, which was known as a prominent school of thought in the world, decline so quickly while the school of thought and the school of thought could survive until now in the cracks of Confucianism? Have you ever thought about the reason behind this? Li Gang's words directly revealed the fundamental reason for the decline of the school of thought. Mo Huai could not help but be stunned, and his face turned pale. Li Zishuan listened seriously at the side. It was obvious that Li Gang knew more about these old matters than him. It was not bad to take this opportunity to learn. Li Gang did not wait for Mo Huai to reply, and continued. In my opinion, the reason why the school of thought fell to its current state is because your school of thought's requirement for your disciples are too harsh. Why can sage Confucius not be tired of eating and not be tired of eating? But you school of thought can only wear fur as clothes, wear silk as clothes, work day and night without rest, and suffer to the extreme? Perhaps this is because you have your own beliefs. But who says that people with beliefs can't rely on their own hands to live a good life? Could it be that living in the abyss of suffering every day makes you school of thought superior to the rest of the world? It had to be said that Li Gang's words could be said to hit the nail on the head. Li Zishuan could not help but clap and cheer when he heard it. What he said made too much sense. Among the 100 schools of thought in the pre-Qin dynasty, the ones with the greatest influence were naturally the 4 schools of Confucianism, Moism, Taoism, and legalism. However, after the unification of the Qin and Han dynasties, their fates began to diverge. Confucianism became the orthodox and mainstream of Chinese culture. Legalism, due to its special nature, dominated the politics of the imperial court for 2,000 years. Taoism, on the other hand, recruited believers and occupied civil society, becoming the spiritual home of the secluded people. Only the school of Mo, after a moment of glory, disappeared into the long river of history, whether as a school of thought or as an organization. Why did the school of thought end up so tragically? Was the school of thought not brilliant enough? Definitely not. The school of thought was filled with great humanitarianism and scientific spirit. Even from the perspective of a modern person in the 21st century, it was still so dazzling. In addition to the external reason of dismissing the 100 schools of thought and respecting only Confucianism, there was also an internal reason for the demise of the school of thought. If a person wanted to be a loyal believer of the school of thought, he must have a strong spirit of sacrifice and dedication. He must have a heart of universal love for everyone, and he could not talk about personal feelings. Therefore, Zhuangzi the world criticized the school of thought. His life is hard, his death is shallow, his Tao is great. He makes people worry, makes people sad, and his actions are difficult. I'm afraid that he can't be a saint and have the heart to rebel against the world. Although the school of thought alone, what can he do to the world? Apart from the world, he is also far away from the king. In contrast, being a disciple of Taoism was much better. The goal of Taoism was to become an immortal. This was a beautiful wish that could attract a large number of believers. Moreover, for Taoism, especially for Zhengyi, which had a long history, there were not many rules about abstinence. Sexual intercourse was even a secret technique of the immortals. As a religion that was born, although Buddhism required abstinence, the monks could enjoy spiritual satisfaction while abstinence. Thus, they saw all suffering as a raft that led to happiness. It was because of this chicken soup for the soul that devout Buddhist disciples could ignore the physical hardship and pursue the metaphysical Zen. However, the school of thought's love with impartiality, non-aggression, respect for the virtuous, respect for the common, non-life, non-pleasure, frugality, and frugality in funerals. These ideas were not enough to be the foundation of the school of thought's belief. If it was not based on a firm belief that bitter and abstinent life would not attract new blood to join the school of thought. The number of followers of the school of thought in the world would only decrease. This was the internal reason for the decline of the school of thought. Chapter 607. In the main hall, Lisa Schwann saw that the time was right. So he stood up and said, "Juzi, the previous causes and effects are all gone, but they will also serve as a warning. If you don't want the MO family to continue to decline, you have to make some changes." Didn't MOZ establish the MO family to use his talent in manufacturing to let the farmers in the world live a good life? Although the MO family is declining now, MOZ's knowledge must have been passed down. You are content to stay in a corner and forget MOZ's original intention to save the world. In the long run, the only thing waiting for the MO family is complete extinction. Back then, MOZ called himself a humble man and was called a commoner. He used to be a doctor in the Song Kingdom and was a scholar with considerable cultural knowledge. He was also closer to the workers and farmers. He boasted that there was no ruler above, no farmer below. He was a scholar who sympathized with farmers and workers. MOZ had once studied under a Confucian scholar and learned the skills of Confucius. He was called Yao Shun the Great and learned Confucian classics such as poems, books, spring and autumn. But later, he gradually became tired of the cumbersome etiquette of Confucianism and finally abandoned Confucianism to form his own school of thought. Before the rise of legalism, which represented the interests of the new landlord class, the MO family was the largest school of thought in opposition to Confucianism in the pre-Qin dynasty. Han Fizi, eminent learning, recorded, "The eminent learning of the world is Confucianism. Where Confucianism is, Confucius is. Where MO is, MOD is." At this moment, MO Huai sighed deeply and looked at Lisa Schwann with a complicated expression. He said, after the divine ancestor passed away, the MO family was divided into 3 factions. The MO family of Xiangli, the MO family of Xiangfu, and the MO family of Dengling. The Xiangli family was led by the divine ancestor's chief disciple, Qin Liali. He had the Juzi's keepsake, the inky snow sword. Speaking of this, MO Huai pulled out the inky sword at his waist and looked at the sword with a solemn and sad expression. He continued, "The inky snow sword is inscribed on the world, and only the heart is unmoved." Since ancient times, the MO family's Juzi has always held on to this belief, even if they died in battle. As the 45th generation of the MO family, it took me until today to recognize the root cause of the MO family's decline. I deserve to die. I, MO Huai, have let down the holy ancestor. After saying that, 2 drops of turbid tears fell from the corners of his eyes. Lisa Schwann comforted him. "Don't blame yourself, Juzi. It's never too late to mend the pen after the sheep is lost." Truth be told, the reason why I was able to answer all 3 of Juzi's questions was because my skills have a lot in common with the MO family's MO school. If you're willing to bring your school of Moism disciples to Yanhuang College to teach, then not only will we be able to discuss knowledge together, we'll also be able to bring engineering and Moism to greater heights, allowing the students to bring this knowledge to the people of Great Tang. MO Huai was puzzled. Engineering? What is engineering? Lisa Schwann asked with a smile. "Juzi, didn't you read the previous editions of the Tang Daily?" MO Huai said awkwardly, "I've heard of it before, but I've never seen it for myself." It wasn't that he couldn't afford newspapers, but he felt that as the MO family's Juzi, he had to set an example and stay away from those vulgar things that only entertain the masses. MO Zhong and MO Yun hung their heads dejectedly, feeling that their boss had embarrassed himself greatly. Lisa Schwann didn't mind and explained patiently. Engineering is the study of engineering. Its main purpose is to serve the needs of the people and improve their lives. Its ultimate goal is to achieve prosperity for all. Civilian houses, palace pavilions, river dams, imperial tombs, and agricultural production can all be supported by engineering. In short, engineering is only for the benefit of the people of the world, not for the fight between schools. Mo Huai was stunned and muttered, "Engineering is only for the benefit of the people of the world? How similar is this to the Moism's purpose?" The Moism's purpose was for righteousness, while Mencius said it was for the benefit of the world. Zhuangzi, the world, said it was for the sake of the world. The Moism gathered disciples to teach and practice. They were the main opposition of the Confucian school. Back then, in order to realize his ideas, Mo Zi personally led his disciples to various countries so that the Moism could bring convenience and benefits to the people of the world. After a while, Mo Huai came back to his senses and said, "Forgive me for being presumptuous, but Lord Zhu, you said that your engineering has many similarities with the Moism. Do you have any proof?" Now that things had developed to this point, Mo Huai's attitude towards Li Zishuan had changed greatly. From the initial arrogance and contempt to the new respect after losing the bet. And now, after hearing that Li Zishuan had created his own engineering, he already regarded Li Zishuan as someone of the same generation. Since ancient times, a capable person, regardless of age, beauty, or ugliness, would be respected no matter where they went. Li Zishuan laughed and said, "What's so difficult about that? Mr. Li, can you let your servant go to my house and fetch 2 books?" Li Gang naturally agreed. After a while, a servant in Li Gang's house rode an old horse out of the back door and rushed to Yongle Lane. The people in the house were not idle either. After seeing that Li Gang had arranged for someone to fetch the books, Li Zishuan cupped his hands and said to Mo Huai, "Zhuzi, to be honest, I was very surprised by the 3 questions you raised just now. I originally thought that I was the only one who studied astronomy, mechanics, and engineering. I never thought that I would meet a like-minded person today. If it's convenient, can you tell me where the 3 questions came from?" There was no other reason. Li Zishuan asked this mainly because he wanted to confirm whether Mo Huai was a transmigrator or not. After all, the 3 questions Mo Huai asked just now were really shocking, and he could not help but be suspicious. Mo Huai heard this and said, "Those 3 questions were all recorded in the notes or books left behind by the divine ancestor. I originally thought that I only needed to use one of them to stump Lord Zhu, but I never thought that Lord Zhu would be so knowledgeable about these things at such a young age. I'm ashamed to say that as the Mo family's Zhuzi, I'm not as knowledgeable as you, Lord Zhu. I can only guard the knowledge left behind by the divine ancestor and struggle at death's door. Sigh. Not only me, but none of the previous 43 Zhuzi could reach the divine ancestor's achievements. It was not easy for Mo Huai to have this kind of awareness. As he said, after Mo Zi, there was no other great thinker in the Mo family, and there was no further improvement of the Mo family's thinking to maintain its vitality. They did not keep up with the times. As for the other schools of thought, after Confucius, there was Mencius, Sun Zi, Dong Zhongshu, and so on. After Laozi, there was Zhuangzi, Luan, and so on. The legalists were even more valued by the ruling class, especially at the beginning of the Western Han Dynasty, when the country was under great rule and the ruler needed good strategies to govern the country. Dong Zhongshu of the Confucian school offered the spring and autumn dew and the 3 strategies for heaven and man. Luan of the Taoist school offered the Huainanzi. As for the Mo family, they did nothing in terms of academics and governance at that time. This was also one of the reasons why the Mo family was on the decline. Chapter 608. It's Mo Zi. Li Zishuan was extremely shocked when he heard Mo Huai's reply. Since when was Mo Zi? Qin Dynasty. It was more than 1,000 years since the Tang Dynasty, and more than 2,000 years since the modern era. Mo Zi had already started researching astronomy, mechanics, and optics at such an early age. Li Zishuan suddenly had an extremely absurd thought. Could it be that Mo Zi was also a transmigrator like me, and he was also an engineering student in his previous life? All right, after this incident, Li Zishuan expressed that he would never underestimate the ancients again. Brother Mo, don't be too harsh on yourself. Mo Zi was also a godlike figure back then. It's extremely difficult for future generations to surpass him. Let's not talk about surpassing him. It's already very difficult to carry forward the knowledge that he left behind. And Xiao Xian's Yanhuan College's content is somewhat similar to the Mo family's teachings. Brother Mo, why don't you take this opportunity to carry forward the Mo family's teachings and benefit the world? Li Gang couldn't help but console Mo Huai when he saw his dejected expression. However, as he spoke, he took the opportunity to advertise Yanhuan College. As the saying goes, the older you get, the wiser you become. Although Li Zishuan concealed it well, how could Li Gang not see that Li Zishuan wanted to recruit Mo Huai? Li Gang admired Li Zishuan very much for this rather ambitious young man. Naturally, he would help him if he could. Mo Huai was silent for a while. He narrowed his eyes and didn't reply. No one knew what he was thinking, but Li Zishuan caught a fleeting glimpse of interest in Mo Huai's eyes. Thus, Li Zishuan struck while the iron was hot and said, "Juzi, you just said that although the Mo family's bloodline hasn't been cut off until today, the Mo family hasn't made any fundamental progress after so many years. In the long run, the Mo family will completely disappear. From the way I see it, if you want to bring the school of Mo to greater heights, you have to bring the remaining followers of the school of Mo out into the world. Any sect that was content to stay in a corner and build a cart behind closed doors would not be able to progress and develop. On the other hand, Yanhuan College is a place where the young talents of the Great Tang's 360 provinces and counties are gathered. This is the best opportunity for you to promote the Mo school." When Mo Huai heard that, he couldn't help but ask in confusion, "Didn't Lord Zhu establish Yanhuan College to spread engineering? If I go and teach, aren't you afraid that your disciples will change their allegiance to the Mo family?" Li Zishuan laughed and said, "First of all, no matter if it's you or the other followers of the school of Mo, after being hired to teach at Yanhuan College, you only have one responsibility, and that is to teach the knowledge in the textbooks to the students of Yanhuan College. You only have one identity, and that is to be the teachers of Yanhuan College. In the college, there will no longer be a hierarchy between you. You will all be colleagues who will work together. I said a long time ago that engineering will not compete with other schools. My purpose in spreading engineering is to benefit the people of the world. Therefore, in the future, Yanhuan College will be a very clean and pure place. There will be no fighting, no deception, and only the pursuit of truth and knowledge. During the teaching period, no activities unrelated to teaching are allowed. If there are students who are interested in the School of Mo and want to join the School of Mo after class, I, Li Zishuan, will not stop them in any way. Everyone has the freedom to choose." When Li Zishuan first had the idea of roping in Mo Huai, he was worried that this giant of the School of Mo would preach and steal his students after entering Yanhuan College. Later, when Li Gang dug up the past and analyzed the reasons for the rapid decline of the School of Mo, Li Zishuan's worries disappeared without a trace. He did not believe that the students of Yanhuan College would give up a good life and insist on becoming ascetic monks in the School of Mo. On the other hand, if Mo Huai brought the followers of the School of Mo to Yanhuan College, Li Zishuan felt that with the luxurious facilities and rich and friendly academic atmosphere of Yanhuan College, those followers of the School of Mo might be assimilated. Mo Huai did not know the evil plan in Li Zishuan's heart. When he heard these righteous and tolerant words, he praised, "Everyone has the freedom to choose. Lord Zhu is so bold, this old man is ashamed. This old man believes that in the future, Yanhuan College will definitely become my Tang Empire's academic holy land. Master, this little one has brought back the books that Lord Li wanted." At this moment, Li Gang's servant came back riding an old horse. Li Gang nodded. Li Zishuan hurriedly went forward to take the two teaching materials. One was mathematics, and the other was physics. He handed the two teaching materials to Mo Huai and said with a smile, "Giant, please take a look. These two books are the teaching materials that Yanhuan College will use. Of course, Yanhuan College's curriculum is definitely more than these two." Mo Huai did not dare to be careless at this time. He solemnly took the teaching materials with both hands, then excused himself to Lisa Schwan and Li Gang. He could not wait to sit on the stool and start reading seriously. Lisa Schwan and Li Gang smiled to show that they understood. Then, the two of them started chatting in low voices. On the other side, Mo Huai first opened a mathematics textbook. As a giant of the Mo family, he was quite proficient in mathematics. However, after getting used to the Arabic numerals with great difficulty, his eyes could not help but widen as he read. Algebra, equations, geometry, and so on. There were many new concepts defined in the textbook. Then, Mo Huai realized that many of the problems he had encountered before became very simple after using these things. What was even more unbelievable was that he seemed to have seen many of the concepts in the mathematics textbook before in the Mo family's classics. After flipping through another 10 pages, Mo Huai put down the mathematics textbook and opened another physics textbook. Lisa Schwan's physics textbook was very rich in content. It included a preliminary introduction to basic physics concepts such as motion, speed, sound, heat, light reflection, light refraction, and mechanics. There was also Newton's 3 laws. Ahem, of course, Lisa Schwan shamelessly used his name here again. He called it Xiao Schwan's 3 laws. Unlike the mathematics textbook, Mo Huai flipped through the physics textbook very quickly. In less than half an hour, he had flipped through more than half of the physics textbook. Then, he closed the book and put it away. He took a few deep breaths, then suddenly stood up and went to Lisa Schwan. He bowed and said excitedly, "Thank you for your help." The 45th generation of the Mo family's giant, Mo Huai, pays his respects to the divine ancestor. Lisa Schwan, who was still wondering why Mo Huai would bow to him, felt that it was ridiculous when he heard Mo Huai's words. He stomped his feet and said, "Divine ancestor? How can I be your divine ancestor? Are you all right, giant?" Chapter 609. In the main hall, Li Gang, who was sitting on the couch, was so shocked that he almost pulled his beard off when he saw this absurd scene. Mo Zhong and Mo Yun, who were supposed to be guarding Mo Huai, saw that their boss actually bowed to Lisa Schwan and even called him divine ancestor. Both of them looked as if they had seen a ghost. As disciples of the Mo family, no one knew better than them what the two words divine ancestor meant. In the Mo family, the giant was called a saint, and there was only one person who could be called the divine ancestor since ancient times, the founder of the Mo family, Mo Z. As the giant of the Mo family, would Mo Huai use the two words divine ancestor as a joke to others? Obviously not. Even if he died, it was impossible. But how was he going to explain the current situation? At this moment, Mo Zhong and Mo Yun were completely dumbfounded. Mo Huai did not let everyone wait for long. He said firmly, "You are the reincarnation of the divine ancestor. You are the Mo family's divine ancestor." Lisa Schwan was speechless. Reincarnation? Juzi, did you make a mistake? You believe in something as non-existent as reincarnation? Actually, he was more certain than anyone that he was not the reincarnation of MOZ, because the soul in his body had transmigrated from the modern world and had nothing to do with MOZ. Yes, Brother MO, reincarnation only exists in supernatural novels. There is no such thing as reincarnation in reality. Brother Mo, are you too tired? Why don't you go back and rest first? Li Gang could not help but frown and interrupt. If it wasn't for the fact that he knew Mo Huai well, if it were someone else like Mo Huai, he would definitely think that this person was crazy. No. Brother Wenji, I am very clear-headed. I know that no one will believe in the existence of reincarnation. I didn't believe it at first either. However, after reading those two books, I am convinced that Sir Li is the reincarnation of the Mo family's divine ancestor. Mo Huai first shook his head and declined Li Gang's good intentions. Then he began to analyze. For example, in this book of arithmetic, the multiple, midpoint, circle, decimal system, and so on are basic concepts that I've seen in the divine ancestor's handwritten notes. 1,000 years ago, the divine ancestor proposed these concepts. What shocked me the most was that the things recorded in this book of arithmetic were actually more detailed than the divine ancestors' handwritten notes. Also, this physics textbook covers the concepts of motion, speed, sound, heat, reflection of light, refraction of light, mechanics, and so on. I've read all of these things in the sacred ancestors' notes. Moreover, this physics textbook's research on these problems is obviously more in-depth. Back then, the divine ancestor was a genius and spent his entire life to have some attainments in these aspects. However, Li Xianan, you are so young, but you can study these aspects more thoroughly than the divine ancestor. Other than the fact that you are the reincarnation of the divine ancestor and are born with the will of heaven, I really can't think of any other reason. Li Zishuan was dumbfounded. It turned out that Moz had studied the concepts written in his book before. He had to admit that Moz's interests and hobbies were really broad. His understanding of the world had been refreshed once again. However, did he count as being unjustly implicated? In fact, what Mo Huai said was not nonsense. In history, Moz was the first scientist in China's history to treat mathematical problems from a rational perspective. He gave a series of propositions and definitions of mathematical concepts. These propositions and definitions were highly abstract and rigorous. Secondly, Moz's research on physics involved the branches of mechanics, optics, acoustics, and so on. He gave many definitions of physics concepts and made many important discoveries, summarizing some important physics theorems. These included the principle of leverage, small-hole imaging, light and shadow, as well as the imaging characteristics of flat, concave, and convex mirrors. Lastly, Moz himself was also an expert in mechanical manufacturing. He once spent 3 years to meticulously develop a type of wooden bird kite that could fly. He was also an expert at manufacturing vehicles. He could build a vehicle that could carry 30 tons in less than a day. Combined with the new horse carriage that was popular in Chang'an City, Don't Touch Me, and the crane that had just appeared recently, Mo Huai was even more certain that Li Zishuan was the reincarnation of Moz. Juzi, this kid really isn't the reincarnation of your divine ancestor. The knowledge recorded in these 2 books were all taught to me by my master, spiritual master Ling Su, when he was still alive. I call them all the knowledge. The reason I set up Yanwang Academy is to spread my master's knowledge to the world. Li Zishuan rubbed between his eyebrows and explained helplessly. Li Zishuan felt a little uncomfortable being the reincarnation of someone else's divine ancestor for no reason. Although this divine ancestor used to be a very awesome existence, this had nothing to do with him. He just wanted to be himself. Mo Huai said in disbelief, "Impossible. Other than the divine ancestor, who else in the world could have such deep attainments in these aspects?" Li Zishuan spread out his hands and said, "You haven't seen it, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Moreover, my abilities came from my master. There's probably no one in the great Tang who doesn't know about this, right? Wake up. I'm definitely not the reincarnation of your divine ancestor." Li Gang also nodded and said, "Brother Mo, although there are many coincidences in this matter, Xiao Xian's abilities are also open and above board. He definitely isn't the reincarnation of the Mo family's divine ancestor." Hearing Li Gang's words, Mo Huai finally wavered a little. His face was filled with disappointment as he muttered, "Is it really not?" Li Zishuan couldn't help but feel a little sympathy for this old man's disappointed look. He thought for a moment and said, "Juzi, I know what you're thinking. You're hoping that there really is the reincarnation of the Mo family's divine ancestor, and then lead the Mo family to become strong again. But it's better to rely on yourself than on others. The spread of the Mo school still depends on you and the current followers of the Mo family." Mo Huai was stunned. Li Zishuan's words stabbed him in the heart. He did have such thoughts before. After a while, he cupped his hands and bowed to Li Zishuan. "Thank you for your advice, Lord Li Zishuan. I've made up my mind. I'll issue an order for all followers of the Mo family to come to Chang and help Lord Zhu impart knowledge and enlighten the people." When Mo Zhong and Mo Yun heard Mo Huai's words, they couldn't help but look at each other. It seemed like they were happy with this result. Li Zixuan was overjoyed. He said excitedly, "That's great, that's great. Juzi, welcome to Yanwang College." When the rest of the followers of the Mo family arrive in Chong, and just let me know, and I'll take care of them. Chapter 610. Little Xian. Although the Mo family's Juzi has agreed to lead the rest of the Mo family into Yanwang College, you mustn't reveal their identities to others. Moreover, many of these followers of the school of Mo are skilled in martial arts. You must pay attention to management and don't let these people go out and cause trouble. You must know that there are many people watching you now. After Mo Huai, Mo Zhong, and Mo Yun left with their mission, Li Gang looked at Li Zixuan and said earnestly. Li Zixuan was stunned. He didn't understand, so he asked, "Sir, why is that? Do you know why the emperors of the past have been suppressing the Mo family ever since the Qin Dynasty unified the world?" Li Gang clasped his hands behind his back and sighed deeply. Then, he turned around and stared into Li Zixuan's eyes with a burning gaze. Li Zixuan answered matter-of-factly, "Isn't it because Confucianism can better govern the people? That's why the other schools of thought can only slowly die out." This question was something that any modern person could answer, because countless historians had analyzed this problem. For the feudal rulers, Confucianism, which centered on the benevolence of hierarchy, was more suited to the needs of the ancient emperors to implement feudal autocracy. Therefore, when Confucianism became popular, other schools of thought would naturally die out. "You brat!" Li Gang glared and pointed at Li Zixuan. He was old and experienced, so of course he knew that Li Zixuan was speaking the truth. However, how could the truth be said so casually? He scolded jokingly, then said, "You can talk nonsense in front of me, but don't say these words outside." Li Zixuan knew that he had misspoken and hurriedly agreed. Li Gang shook his head and continued. "Actually, other than Confucianism, there's another important reason why the emperors of the past suppressed the Mo family. Under the background of great unification, a strong organization with strict internal discipline would inevitably make the imperial court extremely wary. Although the Mo family may only be hot-blooded and have no political ambitions, the emperors of the past were not afraid of greedy villains, but sages with the ability to mobilize people. For example, Xiaohe. When Emperor Gaozu of Han stabilized the country, Xiaohe's right-hand man advised him to buy more land and dirty himself. Only then would he feel at ease. Xiaohe listened to the advice and forced the commoners to buy their houses and land at a low price. As expected, Emperor Gaozu was very happy. If Prime Minister Xiao wanted to benefit the world like Moz, there might be another headless ghost in the Weiyang Palace. Therefore, after the first emperor, he immediately sent the secret shadow guards to kill the Mo family. In the Han Dynasty, the imperial court suppressed the Mo family several times and almost wiped out the entire Mo family. Although these people are Xian, you still have to avoid suspicion, to avoid to RIs to Lees. Don't give, you still avoid or error off. You don't error off, you don't, you they, you to avoid or error off, to avoid. Li Gang's words were not wrong. To a ruler, the most terrifying thing was not the ambition to rebel, but the ability to rebel. Therefore, as an organization, the Mo family could only exist in the era of the various kingdoms. At that time, there was no unification of the four kingdoms. The greatest danger that the rulers of the various kingdoms faced was the enemy countries around them. Therefore, they were much more relaxed towards the commoners under their rule. Once the 6 kings are gone, the 4 kingdoms are one, the ruler would definitely treat his subjects as his enemy. Not only would organizations like the Mo family not be able to continue existing, even those who inherited some of the Mo family's ideas and took the responsibility of eliminating violence and protecting the common people would not be tolerated by the imperial court because of using martial arts to violate the law. Li Zixuan stood to the side. As he listened, he couldn't help but think of that turbulent and bloody era. He couldn't help but feel sad that such a great school of thought like the school of Mo was born in this terrible era. After a long silence, he solemnly cupped his hands towards Li Gang and said, "Thank you for your reminder. I will be careful. He knew in his heart that if Li Gang didn't really treat him as a junior, he definitely wouldn't have said these words. Li Gang shook his head. It was obvious that he also felt pity for the Mo family's ending. At this time, he looked at the green bamboo at the corner of the door and said with a sigh, "The Mo family's motto is words spoken by mouth must be carried out by body. The Mo family has many brave warriors, and every member of the Mo family is willing to go through fire and tread on blades without hesitation. This kind of dedication is valuable, but it can easily be expressed as a collective action, which is not beneficial to the long-term development of the school. In the past, when the Mo family's great son Meng Shang was appointed as the Lord of Yang City in the Chu Kingdom, he and his 183 disciples all died in battle. In the chaotic times at that time, such an incident was definitely not the only case for the Mo family. Although the Mo family had hundreds of thousands of disciples at its peak, no matter how many disciples there were, how many times could they withstand such a great battle? Therefore, this old man believes that the Mo family's bravery and ruthlessness are not desirable. Today, Yinhuang College is a good place for them to go. This old man hopes that they can peacefully teach and educate people in the college, and don't cause any more trouble. With lofty ideals as the goal, a strict organization as the norm, and a willingness to sacrifice themselves for their ideals, this was the overall characteristic of the Mo family. When they participated in social change and practice in a collective and group way, they could demonstrate an extremely powerful force. However, the tragic result could also happen. When this group of people suffered a strong blow, with their dedication to justice and ideals, with their spirit that would rather die than retreat, the result would not only be a collapse, but also a complete wipeout. If the group collapsed, it could still be dealt with, but a wipeout would be impossible to continue. Forget it. Forget it. Let's not talk about these old things. It's getting late, and I know that you're very particular about your food. This old man only has coarse bran and pickles at home, so I won't keep you here to eat, lest you dislike it. After a long time, perhaps Li Gang realized that these topics were too serious, so he stood up and looked at the time, half joking. Li Zixuan blushed with shame and said, "Sir, what are you saying? I'm not a spoiled, rich young master who can't bear hardships. Back then, my master and I ate wild vegetables in the mountains. To be able to eat at the same table as you, even if it's coarse bran and pickles." Li Gang waved his hand in annoyance and said, "Go, go, go. This old man didn't cook for you. Go home and eat by yourself. Oh, right, in 2 days, 2 of my good friends will be coming to Chang, and you should come and meet them." Li Zixuan was still gloomy at first, but when he heard the second half of the sentence, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he hurriedly asked, "Sir, your 2 good friends are? You'll know in 2 days, but you don't have to worry. They're just like me, easygoing people. I'm sure they'll be willing to stay at your college." Chapter 611. Prince of Wei's Mansion, Literature Hall. "Scholar Xiao, are you done with the proofreading?" Li Tai came in from outside and walked around the people around him. He went straight to Xiao Dian's desk and asked expectantly. Looking at Xiao Dian again, his hair was disheveled, his face was haggard, and he had 2 large dark circles under his eyes. He looked like a devil that had just come out of hell. Where was the gentleness from a few days ago? When he heard Li Tai's question, he replied without raising his head, "Soon, soon. Your Highness, please wait a moment. The last proofreading is about to be completed." When Li Tai heard this, he nodded in relief and did not rush him. This was because he knew that the people in the literature hall were already working to their limits. Therefore, he acknowledged and sat by the side to wait for the results. After about an hour, Xiao Dian slammed his brush on the inkstone and laughed loudly. "Ha ha! The proofreading is complete. There are no mistakes. The book is done. It's finally done." Li Tai, who was lying on the desk and flipping through the manuscripts in boredom, suddenly quivered. He ran to Xiao Dian's side and said happily, "Scholar Xiao, are you done with the proofreading?" Xiao Dian nodded excitedly and said, "I'm done with the proofreading. Your Highness, after 7 days of hard work by the 13 of us, this geography textbook is finally done." Xie Yin could not help but say excitedly, "Unbelievable! It's really unbelievable. Although Li Xianan had already completed most of the geography textbook, even the remaining content added up to quite a lot of work. I didn't expect that we only used 7 days to complete it, Li Tai said warmly. This is all thanks to all of you scholars who worked hard these few days. After this prince hands this book to Mr. Li, this prince will personally enter the palace to request for credit for all of you. Although Xiao Dian looked extremely tired, he could not help but laugh when he heard this. Ha ha! Your Highness is too serious. Even if I don't make any contributions, I, Xiao Dian, am still extremely happy to be able to participate in the writing of such a peerless book. Xie Yin smiled and said, Dian is right. This geography book will definitely become a masterpiece that will be handed down from generation to generation. At that time, we might even be able to leave our names in history because of it. We are still basking in the glory of your Highness and Li Xianan. That's right. That's right. The rest of the scholars agreed with him. When little Fatty heard the praises around him, he couldn't help but feel a little proud. He secretly thought that he had the best foresight back then. He was the first one who thought highly of Li Zishuan. After everyone had quieted down, Li Tai said to them, No matter what, you have been busy these past few days. You have stayed up many nights because of this. Now please go and rest. This prince will return the revised textbook of geography to the teacher. With that, he reached out his hand, ready to pick up the book on the table and go to Yongla Lane to find Li Zishuan. In the end, he actually couldn't pick it up. Li Tai took a closer look. It turned out that there were 4 more hands on the book. He looked at the owners of the 4 hands again. It was Xiao Dian and Xie Yin. He couldn't help but wonder, Scholars, what do you mean by this? Cough, cough. Xiao Dian coughed dryly and said embarrassedly, Your Highness, please forgive me. The content of this geography book is really too brilliant. I am a little reluctant to part with it and would like to borrow it for a few days to make a copy for my collection. May I know if it's possible? Xie Yin looked at Li Tai and nodded, indicating that he also had the same intention. The rest of the people came back to their senses and couldn't help but whisper behind them. They were eager to try. Li Tai suddenly felt a lot of pressure. Logically speaking, these people had put in so much effort to perfect this book. Therefore, lending the book to them to make a copy for their collection was not an unreasonable request at all. However, Yinhuang College couldn't wait. After thinking about it, Li Tai tactfully refused. Scholars, you must also know that Yinhuang College will start school on the 18th of this month. At that time, we will need a lot of teaching materials, so we have to print them in advance. Therefore, this revised book must be sent to Mr. Li as soon as possible. If you too want to keep a copy for your collection, this prince will get the workshop to print a few more copies. When the time comes, I will give each of you a copy. How about that? Those who could get along with Li Tai for so long were definitely not the kind of people who were one-track minded. Xiao Dian nodded and said, Your Highness is right. This way, we can save a lot of effort. Xie Yin said, That's right, that's right. We have to thank Your Highness for giving us the book. Thank you, Your Highness. In the afternoon, Li Tai brought the revised geography teaching materials to the Li residence. Li Zishuan, who was taking an afternoon nap in the west courtyard, got up and went to the front hall after hearing the report. What? Could it be that the geography teaching materials on your side have been revised? Li Zishuan asked as he looked at little Fatty, who was drinking fine wine and eating fresh fruits in the front hall. It was not because he could count, but because there was an extra book on the corner of the table. Looking at the thickness of the book, it should be the geography teaching materials that he gave to Li Tai the last time. Yes, yes. Li Tai excitedly chewed the fruit in his mouth and swallowed it. Then, he said excitedly, I finished the revision yesterday afternoon. After that, all the scholars in the academy did not rest and spent the whole night proofreading this book. It was almost noon today when they confirmed that there were no mistakes in it. After that, I personally sent it to you. Li Zishuan could not help but nod and say, yes. Not bad, not bad. They have all worked hard. How about this? In my own name, I will give each of the scholars who participated in the revision of this book 30 strings of cash as a reward for their hard work. Later, Qin Ke, help me pass it to them. Yes. Li Tai nodded. He also understood that 30 strings of cash was not a small amount. Then he caught a glimpse of Li Zishuan sitting at the side and yawning. He immediately said, unhappily, "Hey, little Xian, did you just wake up? You're really not embarrassed. All of us over there have not slept properly for 7 days because of this book. You, on the other hand, are hiding at home alone. You're really relaxed and comfortable." Li Zishuan said unhappily, "Which eye of yours saw that I was relaxed and comfortable? All of you were busy these 7 days. Did you think I was idle these 7 days? Didn't I finish the 4th textbook in these 7 days?" Li Tai suddenly choked and was speechless. However, after hearing that there was another textbook, he could not help but ask curiously, "The 4th textbook? What's it about? Can you lend it to me?" Other than mathematics and geography, he did not know anything about the other 2 books. Of course, he was curious. Li Zishuan shook his head and said, "No. Now that the 4 books are done, I have to get the workshop to hurry up and print them. If you want to read them, you have to wait until school starts." Chapter 612. Master of the Mo Clan? Junxian, are you sure? It was the middle of the night, but the Dew Hall was still brightly lit. Lier leaned back on his couch and stared at Li Junxian as he sternly asked. Li Junxian was dressed in a white robe, his face solemn. He clasped his fist and replied, "Replying to your majesty, this general is extremely certain that this person is the master of the Mo clan. A few years ago, this general personally saw him in Qingzhou. Moreover, the files of the 100 Horsemen Department have detailed records of the master of the Mo clan, so there is no doubt that this person is the master of the Mo clan." Lier nodded, his eyes narrowed in thought. Li Junxian probed, "Your Majesty, should we arrest them?" "Arrest? Why should we arrest them?" Lier raised his eyebrows and looked at Li Junxian. "Firstly, these people did not cheat or rob. Secondly, why should we arrest them? Do we have to arrest them just because they are members of the Mo clan, the sworn enemy of the Confucian school?" Li Junxian pursed his lips, hesitating to speak. Lier seemed to know what Li Junxian wanted to say and chuckled. We understand your intentions. But how can the current Mo clan be compared to the Mo clan of the past? We do not deny that MOD was an important figure, but how much ability can the current master of the Mo clan have compared to him? The people he is leading are just a bunch of stubborn disciples of the Mo clan. They can't cause any waves. Speaking up to this point, Lier suddenly looked towards the north and sighed deeply. He recalled, in the past, the 42nd generation of the Mo family had interacted with my ancestor. Although they were not on the same side, she was still considered a heroine of her generation and was worthy of respect. The Ma's sect has many heroic and righteous people, and they are skilled in engineering. It must have been difficult for Li Zishuan to find their master. This time, Yanwan College will be lively. Li Ying, the 42nd generation great son of the Mo clan, was the first female great son of the Mo clan. She was the daughter of the previous generation's great son, Mo Chun. She was born during the Northern and Southern dynasties and was one of the valiant generals of the Southern dynasties. She had fought with the Northern Wei dynasty many times and had even fought with the Erzhu clan. She had also fought with the Li's second great ancestor, Li Hu's father, Li Yun, and defeated the Erzhu clan. Li Junxian responded with silence. Although he had learned about these matters from the files of the 100 Horsemen Department, this matter concerned the imperial household, so he had no choice but to be cautious. After Lier sighed, he walked a few steps with his hand behind his back and instructed, "Send someone to pass a message to Li Zishuan. Tell him that he can accept people from my sect, but you have to be careful. If something happens, you'll have to bear the consequences." Li Junxian blushed with shame. It wasn't that he had never delivered an imperial decree for Li Zishuan, but an imperial decree in this tone could only be heard when delivered to Li Zishuan. This was a testament to just how much the emperor favored Li Zishuan. "Yes, your majesty." Although many strange thoughts were popping up in his mind, Li Junxian didn't hesitate to respond, clasping his fists and bowing. Lier nodded and returned to his throne. Just when Li Junxian thought that there was nothing else for him to do and was about to leave, Li Er suddenly said, "That's right, Junxian, you should also work harder on your martial arts. Dugu Xian broke into the Grandmaster realm several days ago, and logically speaking, your talent shouldn't be any worse than his. Yet you're still stuck at the Qi transformation realm. This truly shouldn't have happened." Li Junxian panicked and immediately bowed. "This general has sinned. I have disappointed your majesty." Li Er shook his head and softly said, "We don't blame you for anything. We just want to say that while the position of Hunter Horseman officer often relies on one's brain, there are also times when one needs martial arts. Only if you can reach the Grandmaster realm as soon as possible will we be able to give you more tasks. However, the path of martial arts is often dependent on luck and fortune. There's no need for you to force yourself." Li Junxian fell into thought, and after a few moments, he clasped his fists and said, "This general understands. Thank you for your majesty's grace." Luck and fortune? It said that Dugu Xian's luck came from a sword style that Li Zishuan unintentionally created. Then where is my luck? After leaving the palace, Li Junxian looked up at the bright moon in the sky and sighed. He had known long ago that Dugu Xian had broken into the Grandmaster realm, and he had also understood the various details. While he envied Dugu Xian's good fortune, Li Junxian also felt a great pressure. He and Dugu Xian were both outstanding talents of the great Tang's younger generation. After Li Er ascended to the throne, the two of them had served at Li Er's side, one in the light and one in the shadows. They were both good partners and potential rivals. Just as a matter of fact, Li Er had used Dugu Xian to compete with him tonight. Although Li Er might not have had such intentions, it was said that with great power came great responsibility. If Li Junxian wanted to stabilize his position, he had to do both his duty and break through as quickly as possible. However, it was extremely difficult to break through to the Grandmaster realm. In the world, there were thousands of Qi transformation realm martial artists, but only a few dozen Grandmaster realm martial artists. This proved the value of Grandmaster realm martial artists. Li Junxian had been born into a poor family, and he did not have Dugu Xian's profound family background. In his early years, he had served under Li Mi and later became Wang Shichong's general. But because he loathed Wang Shichong's conduct, he had led his men to defect to Li Yuan and was made a light carriage commandant. He had followed Li Er to the Central Plains. During the battle, he rode out alone, charging and breaking through enemy lines, fighting bravely. In the third year of Wuda, Li Junxian had followed Li Er to defeat Song Jinggang and Jieshio. He had been made the general of agile cavalry and given palace servants and silk. In the fourth year of Wuda, Li Junxian had gone to Luoyang to attack Wang Shichong and was made the deputy commander of the cavalry. Wang Shichong's son, Wang Xianying, had transported grain into Luoyang from martial prison. Li Junxian had captured his army, and Wang Xianying had fled. He had followed the army to defeat Do Jianda and Lu Haida. After Li Er ascended the throne, he had been made the Left Guard Residence's assistant commander. In the 8th month of the 9th year of Wuda, the great Tang Dynasty, which had just undergone a coup less than a month ago, had been invaded by the Turks. At that time, the Turks had attacked Jingyang, which was only 40 li away from Chang, and the capital had been shaken. Li Junxian and Yuqi Jingda had been ordered to meet the enemy and resolve the crisis in Chang. Li Er sighed. Junxian is so valiant. What is there to worry about? He had been made the general of the Left Guard, in charge of the Xuanwu Gates Guards, and had been made the county duke of Wulyan. Li Junxian had been very diligent in his work during the war, and he had often been rewarded by Li Er. This year, Li Er had formed the 100 Cavalry, and the brave and intelligent Li Junxian had been made the commander of the 100 Cavalry Department. It could be said that he had been blessed by the Emperor for a long time. Sigh, I can only take one step at a time. Nothing can be forced. Let the heavens decide everything. Li Junxian shook his head and sighed. Then, he mounted his horse and rode off into the distance. However, he was not the only one who was troubled by the martial Tao. Chapter 613. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. Bad news. Butler Zhao. Butler Zhao. Not long after his conversation with Li Junxian, Lier was preparing to leave Ganlu Palace to rest in the rear palace when a young eunuch came running over, shouting at him as he ran. Lier stopped in his tracks, looked at the young eunuch, and asked in a deep voice, "Zhao Song, what happened to him?" The eunuch panted and quickly replied, "Your Majesty, Eunuch Zhao. He seems to have gone berserk due to improper training. Right now, his room is like a furnace and no one dares to go near it." Lier was shocked and said, "There's such a thing?" Quickly summon Wang Jian and Wang Gang to the Minister of Internal Affairs. If something had happened to other eunuchs, Lier would not be so concerned. But Zhao Song was different. Putting aside his martial arts, Zhao Song was an old man by his side. He had been by his side ever since he was still the king of Qin. It had been almost 5 to 6 years. It was said that the emperor was heartless, but that also depended on the person and the time. Right now, Lier was not willing to see something happen to Zhao Song. "Yes, Your Majesty." The eunuch had the ability to observe people's expressions. He could see Lier's anxiety and quickly bowed in response before going to pass on the decree. Lier frowned and ordered the eunuch beside him, "Prepare the carriage for the Minister of Internal Affairs." In the west of the palace, there was a short building complex. That was the Yeding Palace. It was where the palace maids and the family members of the officials who committed crimes lived. To the north of the Yeding Palace was Taicong, and to the south was the Minister of Internal Affairs, where all the eunuchs lived. When Lier hurried over from Taiji Palace, the 2 eunuchs he summoned were already there. They were middle-aged men in their 40s and 50s and wore loose white robes. They had an elegant demeanor and stood out from the crowd. When the 2 of them saw Lier, they quickly walked over and bowed. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Although the 2 of them were highly skilled in martial arts, but no matter how powerful they were, they could not surpass the secular imperial power. Especially in the face of Lier, this powerful and iron-blooded emperor, they did not dare to have a trace of neglect. Lier nodded and asked directly, "How is Zhao Song now? Why don't the 2 of you go in and help?" One of the men with slightly darker skin cupped his hands and smiled bitterly. "Your Majesty, before you came, the 2 of us had already checked on Steward Zhao's situation. It's not that we don't want to help, it's just that our abilities are limited and we can't help." Lier was shocked when he heard that. He said in surprise, "Even the 2 of you can't help?" The other consecrator shook his head helplessly and said, "Your Majesty, Head Steward Zhao's martial cultivation is already slightly higher than both of us. Now that the vital energy in his body is rampaging wildly, if we want to use external forces to help, we must find a martial arts expert who can completely suppress the vital energy in Head Steward Zhao's body. However, only a great grandmaster can do this. With the strength of both of us, if we rashly intervene, we will only harm Head Steward Zhao. The only thing we can do now is to see if Manager Zhao can make it through." Great Grandmaster? When Lier heard that, he couldn't help but frown deeper. There were only 3 recognized Great Grandmaster experts in the world. Spiritual Master Ling Su of the Celestial Master Sect of Longhu Mountain, Abbot Xian Kong of the Shaolin Temple, and Tujua Nation Master Wu Jie. Now, one of the 2 Great Grandmasters in the Central Plains was gone, leaving only Abbot Xian Kong of the Shaolin Temple. If Lier gave an order, Xian Kong would definitely do him a favor. However, was there really enough time? Lier, who sat on the world and had hundreds of thousands of soldiers in his hands, was at a loss at this moment. Wang Jian. Zhao Song was fine before. How did he suddenly become like this? After thinking for a while, Lier frowned and asked. The 2 consecrators of the imperial family looked at each other. Finally, the slightly darker and older consecrator stepped forward and cupped his hands. "Your Majesty, Manager Zhao's meridians are full of genuine qi. At first glance, it seems to be a sign of a breakthrough. However, the total amount of genuine qi in Manager Zhao's body is definitely not enough for him to break through to the Great Grandmaster realm. After thinking about it, I feel that the violent, genuine qi in Manager Zhao's body seems to have been formed after being forcibly compressed before suddenly going out of control. Lier was stunned. He suddenly remembered the lie Li Zexuan told in the imperial court after he destroyed the 7 cultivators of Virtue sect. Seeing Lier's gloomy face, Wang Jian thought that he had said something wrong and hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, it was just my humble opinion. I don't think Manager Zhao would do such a thing without common sense." Lier's face darkened, and he said in a deep voice, "No, you're right. Zhao Song really did do such a thing without common sense." Previously, Li Zexuan mentioned the genuine qi bomb in the imperial court and told a big lie to deceive everyone. Later, only the 2 of them knew about the gunpowder. Zhao Song didn't know about it, which led to the current situation. Lier was really anxious and annoyed now. Wang Jian and Wang Gang were dumbfounded. They never thought that this unreliable guess would become a truth. "I'll go in and take a look." Lier thought for a while and was about to enter the house. Wang Jian was shocked and hurriedly stopped him. "Your Majesty, you can't. Manager Zhao is not conscious at the moment, and his genuine qi is still in a violent state. It's very likely that he will accidentally hurt your Majesty. Besides, this house is very hot at the moment. Your Majesty shouldn't go in. Your Majesty's body is priceless. Please think twice." The accompanying eunuchs and maids stopped him in unison. Lier was helpless. He sighed and said, "Then you 2 stay here and take good care of him. You must protect Zhao Song's life. When he wakes up, inform me as soon as possible." Wang Jian and Wang Gang naturally cupped their hands and said yes. Qin Mansion. Although it was late at night, it was still brightly lit. "Zhuang Qi, why hasn't Master come out yet? He's been in there for almost a day." Outside a house in the backyard of Qin Mansion, a group of anxious people gathered. There was Madame Qin, Qin Huaiyu, and the maids, servants, and guards in the mansion. At this moment, Madame Qin glanced at the tightly shut door and asked the burly man beside her with a worried expression. Zhuang Qi was not sure himself, but he still forced himself to be calm and said, "Madame Qin, don't worry. Master's body has been getting better day by day for the past few months. Ever since he started practicing Tai Chi, his old injuries have been recovering faster and faster. It must be a good thing that he suddenly went into seclusion today. Who knows? Maybe Master will be able to recover to his peak strength this time." Madame Qin wiped the sweat on her forehead and sighed. "I only hope that Master can be healthy. As for the strength of his martial arts, I don't care about it." At this moment, Qin Huaiyu came over and patted Madame Qin's shoulder, comforting her. "Mother, Father will be fine. Go back to your room and rest. I'll stay here and guard." Chapter 614. The next morning, Li Zexuan had just woken up when he heard a piece of big news. "What? Uncle Qin's injuries are completely healed? And he even broke through?" Li Zexuan was eating breakfast in the main hall when Han Yushi suddenly came in and told him the news. Li Zexuan couldn't help but exclaim, "That's right. I heard that after practicing Tai Chi yesterday, Godfather suddenly felt something and locked himself up. Last night, Godfather broke out of seclusion. Not only were his old injuries completely healed, but his strength had also improved and reached the peak of the master stage. This way, Godfather doesn't have to suffer any more pain." Han Yushi happily shared the news she had heard with Li Zexuan. After saying that, she seemed to have thought of some unhappy things. She immediately wrinkled her nose and said, "Previously, some imperial physicians said that Godfather's body could only hold on for another 10 years at most. Let's see if they still dare to say that now. A bunch of quacks." Li Zexuan couldn't help sweating. He really wanted to say, "Wife, those imperial physicians were right. If it weren't for me, Qin Xiong wouldn't have lived for more than 10 years. Of course, he couldn't say that he had foresight. Transmigration was his biggest secret. Ahem, wife is right. Those are all quacks." Li Zexuan coughed dryly and agreed. Han Yushi smiled and walked to Li Zexuan's side. "Husband, let's go to Qin Manor to visit Godfather later, okay?" You were busy with the matters of the academy previously and alienated some of the elders who were close to our family. Li Zishuan was stunned. He didn't expect Han Yushi to think so thoroughly, so he praised, "Yes, wife is right. Let's go and visit Uncle Qin after dinner." Although they were married, they still addressed Qin Xiong by their own names. Anyway, Li Zishuan couldn't call Qin Xiong godfather like Han Yushi. "Okay, young master, General Zhuo Wu Wei is here with an imperial edict." After breakfast, Li Zishuan asked the servants to prepare some gifts and prepare to go to the Qin family. After all, Qin Xiong's recovery and breakthrough this time could be considered a joyous occasion. It was necessary to bring some gifts to congratulate him. Unexpectedly, at this moment, the gatekeeper, Ah Fu, rushed in to report. Li Zishuan asked in confusion, "General Zhuo Wei? Who is it?" He already knew that there was one general and two generals in each of the 16 guards of the Tang Dynasty. He also knew that the general of the Zhuo Wu Wei was Qin Xiong. However, he really did not know who the general of the Zhuo Wu Wei was. However, he could not be blamed for this. Ah Fu was dumbfounded by the question. There was no one else like this wastrel young master. He replied, "Young master, it's General Li Junxian." "Oh, Li Junxian, hurry up and invite him in," Li Zishuan said hurriedly with a look of sudden realization. "There's no need for that. This general is already here." "Mr. Li, you won't blame this general for being rude, right?" Li Zishuan had just finished speaking when a white-robed man walked in. He stared at Li Zishuan and said, half-jokingly, "It was Li Junxian." Just from appearance alone, Li Junxian had a tall and straight figure and an awe-inspiring demeanor. His sharp eyebrows and handsome face made him look even more heroic. TSK. It's actually a pretty boy. No wonder there were rumors about him and Wu Meinyang in the future. Li Zishuan muttered to himself. Then, he stepped forward and clasped his hands with a smile. "Generally, were you saying, you have a divine mandate on you? Please come in and have some tea." While Li Zishuan was sizing up Li Zishuan, Li Junxian was also sizing up Li Zishuan. He had met Li Zishuan before. When Li Zishuan had challenged Mount Beimeng in order to save Han Yushi, Li Er had sent him to investigate the situation. Although the situation had already been decided by the time he found Li Zishuan, he had still met Li Zishuan before. But today was his first time meeting Li Zishuan face to face. As he looked at this youth who was about the same height as him, but still somewhat childish, he couldn't help but sigh. If not for Li Zishuan, he and Dugu Xian would have been considered outstanding talents of the great Tang's younger generation. But there were no ifs in reality. Although he held an important position at such a young age and was even a second-rank county duke, he was still a little dim compared to Li Zishuan. The other party wasn't even 15 yet, but he was already able to climb to such a high position. Who knew what he would be like when he was in his 20s or 30s? Besides, how could a martial arts grandmaster who wasn't even 15 years old compare to him? This general is only here to pass on an imperial decree. I won't impose on you. County Duke Li, listen to the decree. Li Zishuan snapped out of his thoughts and sternly said to Li Zishuan. When Li Zishuan heard that it was a verbal decree from Li Er and not an official imperial decree, he immediately dismissed the idea of having someone set up the incense table. He stood to the side and bent his body slightly, pretending to listen attentively. His Majesty wants this general to inform you that Yinhuang College can accept people from a Mahis sect, but you have to know the limits. If something happens, you will have to bear the consequences. In the end, Li Junxian had to polish Li Er's words a little. Otherwise, he would have been too embarrassed to say it out loud. Even so, this imperial decree was still very straightforward. However, Li Zishuan really liked this kind of straightforward imperial decree. After hearing this, he hurriedly clasped his hands and said, "This subject receives the decree. Thank you for your grace." Li Zishuan's gratitude was sincere. Yesterday, after Li Gang analyzed the pros and cons of the Mahis sect joining Yinhuang College, he knew that the greatest power preventing the Mahis sect from entering the world wasn't the Confucians, but the imperial court and the emperor. Although the Confucians were powerful, their snobbishness couldn't be compared to Li Er's. Otherwise, how could there be a situation where Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism coexisted? Thus, Li Zixuan didn't really care about the attitudes of others. However, he had to care about Li Er's attitude. After all, Li Er was his immediate superior. After returning from Li Gang's house yesterday, Li Zixuan had been thinking about how to get Li Er to lower his guard against the Mahis sect. What he didn't expect was that he didn't do anything, and Li Er took the initiative to deliver himself to his doorstep. This solved a huge worry in his heart. As for how Li Er knew that the head of the Mahis sect was going to join Yanhuang College, Li Zixuan could figure it out even with his eyes closed. Although he felt a little uncomfortable in this feudal society, wasn't it easy for an emperor to know the movements of others? For Li Zixuan, it was fine as long as it didn't affect his life. Besides, even in modern society, did you really have privacy? When he thought of this, Li Zixuan felt a little better. Chapter 6:15. Husband, is His Majesty angry at you? After Li Junxian left with Li Er's decree, Han Yushi pulled on Li Zixuan's arm and asked. Those who didn't know the situation would immediately think that Li Er was reprimanding Li Zixuan, which was why Han Yushi was so worried. Of course not. There are times when one can't just look at things from the surface. This imperial decree is a good thing for our family. Wife, there's no need to worry. Li Zixuan stroked Han Yushi's coiled hair and comforted her gently. Then he said, "All right, aren't you going to visit Uncle Qin? Sanbao and the others are just about done packing, so let's set off." Han Yushi naturally agreed. The husband and wife went out hand in hand. They rode a carriage with gifts and headed towards the Qin manor. When they arrived at the Qin residence, Li Zixuan realized that the place was already packed with carriages. 4 or 5 carriages were parked by the side of the road, and each carriage had a manservant who was giving the horses water to prevent them from getting heat stroke. It seems like it's going to be rather lively here. Li Zixuan jumped down from the carriage and helped Han Yushi down as well. He couldn't help but chuckle as he looked at the situation by the road. Han Yushi steadied herself and smiled. Adoptive father's recovery from his illness is a major event for all of the great Tang. Many people will definitely come to congratulate him. Li Zixuan nodded and pulled Han Yushi inside. The gatekeepers of the Qin residence naturally wouldn't stop them. One of them was their patriarch savior, while the other was their patriarch's adopted daughter. Even if they had 10 times the courage, they wouldn't dare to stop them. Second brother can finally ride a horse and hunt with me and go to the battlefield to kill enemies. How delightful, how delightful. Today, we brothers must not return until we're drunk. Cough. Needless to say, only Cheng Yaojin could have such a loud voice and speak in such a bold and unrestrained manner. You idiot. Shu Bao has just recovered from his illness. How could he drink so much with a fool like you? It was obvious that this voice belonged to Yu Qigong. He was the only one who would go against Cheng Yaojin like this. Hey, Yuchi old hey, what are you talking about? Not only has second brother recovered from his old injuries, but he is also more powerful than you and I. Why can't he drink? I think it's you, Yuchi old black, who can't hold your liquor well and doesn't dare to drink with us, right? Bullshit. I don't dare to drink with you. Come. Today, whoever falls first will be the grandson. So be it. Do you think I, old Cheng, am afraid of you? Hearing this, Li Zixuan couldn't help but shake his head and walk towards the main hall. He thought to himself, these 2 old fellows can really fight anywhere. They're simply enemies from the previous life. No, it should be enemies from the previous life, because even enemies are not as fierce as these 2. It was originally a celebratory banquet for Qin Xiong's recovery, but these 2 people turned it into a cat fight. Uncle Qin, I heard that you've recovered. Congratulations. From now on, you can continue to carry your spear and gallop on the battlefield. Li Zixuan stepped forward and cupped his hands to Qin Xiong before congratulating him. As for Han Yushi, she had already been led to the backyard by the Qin manor servants to talk to Mrs. Qin. After all, there were so many men in the main hall, and she had nothing in common to talk about here. Only then did everyone notice that Li Zishuan had arrived. Qin Xiong was the first to stand up and smile kindly. "Ha! This is all thanks to you, little Xian. Come and sit first." "Hey, that's the result of your own perseverance, Uncle Qin," Li Zishuan said humbly. Then, after greeting some of the elders present, Li Jing, Cheng Yaojin, Yuqi Jingda, Niu Jinda, Li Daozong, etc., he sat at the last seat on Qin Xiong's right. There was no choice. Who asked him to be the last to arrive and be the youngest person? Huh, this is your credit. No one can take it away. If it weren't for your unique medicinal wine, little Xian, and that blood-snatching method to prolong my life, this old man could only lie in bed for the next few years and wait for death. How can I still sit here and chat with all of you? Qin Xiong stroked his beard and looked at Li Zishuan with admiration. Cheng Yaojin said with a faint smile, "Haha, we're all family. Second brother Qin, what are you thanking us for? Besides, even if you want to thank us, this is not a complete thank you. Did you forget to tell us something?" Qin Xiong was stunned and asked in bewilderment, "What is it?" Cheng Yaojin pursed his lips and said, "It's that Taiji fist. Second brother Qin, didn't you break through to the peak of Grandmaster because of Taiji fist? A while ago, I heard that Duguxin broke through to Grandmaster with a few sword moves that little Xian helped him deduce. Now, second brother Qin, you've reached the peak of Grandmaster because of little Xian's Taiji fist. This is enough to show that if a martial artist wants to break through, it's best to look for little Xian." That's right. Now, little Xian has a small reputation in the martial arts world. Li Jing stroked his beard and smiled. However, Yuqi Gong said, "Second brother Qin has just recovered from serious illness this time, and his strength has increased by another level. It could be said that he has left us behind again." The reason why Yuqi Gong said this was mainly because among them, when they were young, Qin Xiong's martial strength was the first to reach its peak. And according to the development of things, Qin Xiong's martial strength should be the first to decline. At the beginning, it was indeed like this. At that time, they were chasing after Qin Xiong's footsteps, but Qin Xiong's martial strength kept declining because of his body. Everyone thought that it would end like this. Who knew that Qin Xiong would be reborn today? Not only did he wash away his old injuries, but he also took another step forward in martial arts and once again pulled away from these generals. Second brother Qin, can I practice Taiji fist? I've been stuck at Grandmaster middle stage for a long time. If I can practice Taiji fist, I might be able to break through. Cheng Yaojin asked shamelessly. At this moment, the rest of the people stopped talking to each other and turned their attention to this side. For martial artists, there was nothing more comfortable than improving their realm. Qin Xiong glanced at Cheng Yaojin and said, "I don't have any objections, but you have to ask little Xian. After all, Taiji fist is from him." Seeing that everyone was looking at him, Li Zishuan hurriedly said, "Haha, I don't have any objections either. If you want to learn Taiji fist, you can all learn it. However, Taiji fist emphasizes the word understanding. If you don't use your heart to understand it, in the end, even if you do make the final move, you can only make the shape look like the spirit, but not the spirit. It won't be beneficial for breaking through the realm." Chapter 616. Zhao Song is in trouble because of you, and you still have the time to show off here. In the front hall of Qin Mansion, everyone was discussing the magical functions of Tai Chi. Suddenly, a loud voice came from outside the door. Then, Li Er stepped into the main hall in his regular clothes. Everyone in the room was shocked. They quickly got up and bowed. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Li Er waved his hand and said, "I'm here today to congratulate Shu Bao on his recovery. There's no need for formalities." Qin Xiong heard this and said gratefully, "Your Majesty, thank you for your concern." Li Er stepped forward and helped Qin Xiong up. He smiled and said, "Shu Bao is the pillar of the country. Shouldn't I be concerned about him?" Qin Xiong's lips moved slightly, and he said in a trembling voice, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Li Er smiled. Then, he did not greet the other officials in the room. He looked directly at Li Zishuan and paused before saying, Zhao Song tried to force a breakthrough last night. He used the method of compressing his vital energy that you mentioned last time. As a result, 30% of his meridians were damaged. If it were not for the help of the two Imperial consecrators at the last moment, he would not have survived. Even so, his strength has fallen from Guru Peak to Guru Early Stage. Li Zishuan's jaw dropped in shock. He never thought that Zhao Song, that lunatic, would dare to do something like this and play it so big. It was as if he wanted to go to the heavens. He wiped the sweat from his forehead. He did not know if it was cold or hot, and said, "Your Majesty, this? Why is Steward Zhao in such a hurry to break through?" Logically speaking, the Tang Empire was at peace now. Although the Turks in the north were eyeing them covetously, these national affairs should not be rushed by a eunuch, right? So, what reason did Zhao Song have to be in such a hurry to break through? Putting aside the self-blame in his heart, Li Zishuan was very curious about the reason why Zhao Song was in such a hurry to break through. Lier was obviously speechless about this. He looked away and was silent for a long time, as if he was considering his words. Then, he said unhappily, "From what I've heard, he must have noticed that Duguxin had broken through to the Grandmaster realm at such a young age. Including you, there are now 2 Grandmasters in the younger generation. He felt the pressure and felt that if he didn't take the risk now, he wouldn't have a chance when he was old. That's why he took the risk last night. In the end, if it weren't for the presence of the 2 Imperial consecrators, he would have lost his life." Li Zishuan broke out in a cold sweat as he thought about the entire situation. If Zhao Song had really lost his life because he had compressed his vital energy to practice martial arts, then even if he was not punished by Lier, Li Zishuan would not be able to rest easy. He thought for a moment, then stepped forward and bowed. "This is all my fault. I misspoke in the Imperial court that day and misled head Steward Zhao. I even caused him to almost lose his life. Your Majesty, please punish me." This apology contained 30% of Li Zishuan's guilt and 70% of his retreating in order to advance. This was because when Lier had just entered, his tone was obviously unfriendly. Oli had come with a temper today. Seeing this, Qin Xiong stepped forward and bowed. "Your Majesty, this matter can't be blamed on Xiao Xian. When eunuch Zhao used the method of compressing his vital energy to break through to the next realm, he must have known the danger, but he still did it. This can't be blamed on Xiao Xian." Cheng Yaojin then echoed in a rough voice, "Your Majesty, this really can't be blamed on Xiao Xian. That day, there were so many ministers and generals in the imperial court. Eunuch Zhao was not the only one who knew the method of compressing his vital energy. In the end, nothing happened to the others except for Eunuch Zhao. Can this be blamed on Xiao Xian?" It was rare for Li Jing to speak. He said, "Your Majesty, Shu Bao and Jijie are right. Eunuch Zhao is over 40 years old. He is not a 3-year-old child. There is no reason to blame others for his own decision. I think Eunuch Zhao himself has never blamed Xiao Xian." Seeing that everyone in the room was speaking up for Li Zishuan, Li Er's face was calm. No one could tell whether he was happy or angry. He paused and said, "I haven't convicted this boy yet. Why are you all so anxious?" Then he turned to Li Zishuan and said, "Although Zhao Song's matter can't be blamed on you, it was more or less caused by you. However, today, Shu Bao recovered from his injury and broke through to the next realm because of you. You can be considered to have brought back another Tiger General for the Tang Empire. This is something that can't be exchanged for anything. At least your merit outweighs your fault. I bestow upon your wife the title of Rank 6 Noble Lady as your reward this time. Do you have any complaints?" Li Zishuan said happily, "Thank you, Your Majesty. I have no complaints." The more time he spent with Han Yushi, the more Li Zishuan knew about the inferiority complex in Han Yushi's bones. He was now a higher and higher official, but the pressure on Han Yushi was getting greater and greater. Sometimes, he was also very troubled. He only wanted to live a simple and happy life without any external interference. However, in Han Yushi's heart, she still could not get rid of the secular concept of a well-matched family. Perhaps she agreed to marry him because she was moved by his persistent pursuit. However, Ever since she married into the Li family, she didn't have a moment of rest. She learned this and that every day, and even learned poetry. Li Zishuan once told her that she didn't need it. However, she said that she wanted to improve and she wanted to be worthy of him. Humble love, humble self. Many people felt that this kind of humble love was not worth cherishing, but Li Zishuan did not think so. In love, if someone loved more, naturally, there would be someone who loved less. It couldn't be equal. People who loved more would give more, and naturally, they would be hurt more. This wasn't because she was cheap. It was because she loved him and didn't want to lose him. After understanding this, Li Zishuan wouldn't not cherish this relationship. He would only feel that this woman really made people feel sorry for her. And the 6th-rank title that Li Er gave to Han Yushi today could be said to be timely reign. In this era, the title of a noble was very rare. If a 6th-rank noble was placed in a place, even the county magistrate would have to greet them with the courtesy of an official. Li Er nodded. Qin Xiong and the others quickly cupped their fists and said, "Your Majesty is wise." Li Er laughed and said, "That's enough. Let's not talk about this anymore. Today, Shu Bao's body has recovered. I am really happy in my heart. Jijia, pharmacist, Jinda, Jingda, since you guys are here, don't leave. Today, we are here to celebrate with wine. We won't go back until we are drunk." Speaking of drinking, Cheng Yaojin suddenly became excited. He didn't care about the etiquette of a monarch and minister. He patted his arm and laughed loudly. "Okay, we originally planned to eat wine at Second Brother's place at noon. It's good that your Majesty is here. Speaking of which, we brothers haven't eaten at the same table with your Majesty for a year, right? Huh? Yes. Today, Xiaoxin is here. This kid's culinary skills are excellent. He can cook a few dishes for us to eat with wine. Wouldn't that be wonderful?" Chapter 617. When it came to cooking, many people would subconsciously think of the phrase, "a gentleman should stay away from the kitchen." It was clearly inappropriate for Li Zishuan, the founding baron of the country, to personally cook. However, the elders in the backyard clearly didn't think so. Cheng Yaojin, Qin Xiong, Niu Jinda, and Yuqi Jingda had always treated Li Zishuan as their own junior. If something happened to Li Zishuan, the 4 of them would definitely be the first to act. As for Li Zishuan, because of Han Tianhu's Han family, he was considered relatives of Li Zishuan. Needless to say, Li Zishuan himself also wanted to try the dishes personally cooked by Li Zishuan. After all, in the entire Tang Dynasty, who didn't know that Li Zishuan was the best at eating? Therefore, Li Zishuan was unquestionably sent to cook for these elders and big shots to go with the wine. As the emperor, if he wanted to eat lunch at the Qin residence, Li Zishuan obviously wouldn't be the only one busy. When Madame Qin, who was chatting with Han Yushi in the backyard, heard that Li Zishuan was going to eat at the Qin residence, she quickly ordered the servants to prepare the ingredients. Then, she personally went to the kitchen. Han Yushi followed behind her. "Xiaoxian, why are you here? Why aren't you in the front room with His Majesty? They all say that a gentleman should stay away from the kitchen. Why are you, a man, in the kitchen? Go out and let Andy." Madame Qin originally planned to personally cook lunch. After all, it was for the emperor. However, she couldn't be careless. If the servants didn't pay attention or had any evil intentions, and something happened to Li Zishuan while he was eating at the Qin residence, then the hundreds of people in the Qin residence would be finished. After entering the kitchen, Madame Qin saw Li Zishuan cutting the pork and couldn't help but reprimand him. Han Yushi, who was following behind, also couldn't help but open her mouth in shock when she saw this scene. When Li Zishuan heard this, he smiled as he cut the pork. What gentleman should stay away from the kitchen? That was just a bunch of hypocrites who pretended to be righteous and hypocritical to cover up their hypocrisy. Today, Uncle Qin has just recovered from serious illness, and this little one's cooking skills are just right. I'll conveniently make a few side dishes for Uncle Qin, the elders, and His Majesty to show my sincerity. What's wrong with that? Mencius had a famous saying, "A gentleman is like a beast. Seeing it alive, he cannot bear to see it dead. Hearing its voice, he cannot bear to eat its flesh. Therefore, a gentleman stays away from the kitchen. In the traditional etiquette system, it was simply established as a code of conduct. A gentleman should stay away from a kitchen. If there is blood and qi, he should not be humiliated. Lisa Xuan felt that the person who said this was simply asking for trouble. Since you can't bear to kill, then don't eat meat. Not only did he have to satisfy his desire for good food, but he also couldn't bear to see the pain of animals dying. He had to stay away from the scene of the killing so that he could eat with a clear conscience. If this wasn't hypocrisy, then what was? Therefore, when he heard Mrs. Qin say that a gentleman stays away from the kitchen, Lisa Xuan thought that it was just a bunch of hypocrites who pretended to be righteous and hypocritical to cover up their hypocrisy. Mrs. Qin saw this and anxiously said, "That's all nonsense. No matter what you say, Annie has never seen a man personally cook in the kitchen. Xiao Xian, hurry up and come out." Lisa Xuan saw that he couldn't persuade Mrs. Qin and fell helpless. He could only bring out the flag and say, "Auntie, this is what His Majesty asked me to do. I have no choice." "What? His Majesty asked you to do it?" Mrs. Qin frowned when she heard this and didn't try to persuade him anymore. She thought for a while and said, Then Annie will help you." "Husband, I'll help you too." Lisa Xuan knew that if he still didn't agree, Mrs. Qin would probably go to the backyard to talk to Li Er personally. Therefore, he nodded and said, "Then I'll have to trouble auntie and wife." "Hey, you child, why are you being so polite with Annie? Besides, this is what Annie should do." Mrs. Qin laughed and went into the kitchen. She began to instruct the maids to help Lisa Xuan wash the vegetables. Han Yushi walked to Lisa Xuan's side and said softly, "Husband, what are you going to cook? Can I help you?" Lisa Xuan smiled and said softly, "I'm going to cook a few new dishes. Vinegar radish skin, big bowl of steamed pork, steamed chicken, fried fish pieces, and fried chicken cubes. Wife, you can just watch from the side and cook for me in the future. How about?" Han Yushi carefully memorized the names of these dishes and said, "Okay, that's good. I'll learn seriously." Seeing the serious expression on the woman's face, Lisa Xuan couldn't help but flick her flawless forehead with his clean hand that was holding the kitchen knife and said, "Don't worry. Why are you so serious? If you can't learn it today, I'll teach you in the future. All right, wife, I have good news here. I'll tell you when we get home." Han Yushi hurriedly covered her forehead as if she had been electrocuted. Then, she guiltily glanced in Mrs. Qin's direction. She didn't even dare to ask about the surprise Lisa Xuan said. She hurriedly stood to the side and lowered her head like an ostrich. Mrs. Qin, who wasn't far away, noticed the couple's small movements, but she didn't say anything. She just smiled with great comfort. It was obvious that she was happy from the bottom of her heart. Lisa Xuan was slightly embarrassed. Then, he pretended that nothing had happened and began to cook. The first dish was a big bowl of steamed pork. Northerners like to eat meat in big bites. Naturally, the wine was like a large piece of meat going through the intestines. They wanted a refreshing taste. Chung Yao Jin and the others would definitely like this big bowl of steamed pork. First, cut the streaky pork into pieces, blanch them in boiling water, soak them in wine, and then deep fry them. Finally, add some preserved vegetables. These vegetables are produced in the Guangdong area. During the Tang Dynasty, there were a lot of them in Lingnan. As the base, steam them for half an hour, and the bright red and tender steamed pork in a big bowl will be ready to be served. Of course, during this time, Lisa Xuan also made the vinegar-choked radish skin. This dish couldn't be easier. Then he made the diced chicken. He chose a piece of chicken breast meat and cut it into small cubes. Then he tore up some orange peel, pepper, cloves, fennel, and other spices. He turned on a fire and heated up a little bit of oil. Then he put the meat and the seasonings into the pot and stir-fried it. The flavor of the spices permeated into the meat. He ate a bite of the diced chicken with a sip of wine. It was so refreshing. There were also fried fish pieces. He cut a whole fat black carp into big chunks and marinated it with salt and white wine grains for an hour. The fish pieces would show a light pink color, which was very tempting. Then He mixed eggs and flour and fried the fish pieces with hot oil. The fish pieces were crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. When it was time to eat, he made a hot sauce with garlic and soy sauce and poured it over it to go with wine. The taste was so good that even an immortal wouldn't exchange it for it. The more Li Zishuan cooked, the more proficient he became. Han Yushi and Mrs. Qin, who were next to him, were more and more dumbfounded. The more they looked, the more they were hungry. This color, this aroma, they almost couldn't help but want to eat it first. Madame Qin gulped and thought to herself, no wonder His Majesty allowed Xiao Xian to come over and cook. Sigh, I don't know where this child learned to cook these dishes, but they're even more delicious than mine, someone who's been cooking for decades. Chapter 618. After working in the Qin family's kitchen for more than 2 hours, Li Zishuan finally finished preparing lunch for the big shots in the backyard. There weren't many types of dishes, only 5 dishes and 1 soup in total. However, the portions of each dish were large and were all placed in small bowls. After all, the big shots sitting in the house were all martial artists, and their appetites were extraordinarily large. After the dishes were done, Li Zishuan naturally didn't have anything to do. Madame Qin ordered the maids to bring the bowls of dishes to the front hall. Li Zishuan didn't care about this. After washing his hands, he pulled his wife out of the kitchen. Unexpectedly, as soon as he came out, he saw Qin Huayu and Cheng Chumo walking towards him. Li Zishuan was stunned and asked, "Hey, Huayu Chonyo, you two are back." Qin Huayu went to Yinshan to participate in labor as early as a month ago. Cheng Chumo liked to slack off and had only been half a month since he went to Yinshan. Under normal circumstances, the two of them should be at Yinshan now, because Yinshan was a little far from Chang'an. The students of a school of mathematics would usually eat together in the cafeteria of Yinshan at noon. "Oh, what meat is this? It smells so good. Hey, wait, don't go. Let me try a piece." Cheng Chumo was about to answer when he smelled an extremely rich fragrance of meat. His attention was immediately attracted by the little maid holding the bowls of dishes. What was worse was that this guy was not only talking, but also stretching out his black dog paw. "Stop!" Madame Qin, who was standing behind him, quickly caught up to him and scolded. "Ugly bull, stop fooling around. This food was prepared for His Majesty. If you really want to eat, then go wash your hands and eat at the table." "What are you doing now?" Cheng Chumo immediately stopped. He widened his eyes and said, Is Her Majesty here too?" He had just brought Qin Huayu home. After learning that Qin Xiong had recovered from his old injuries and had unexpectedly broken through to the next realm, and that Cheng Chumo was freeloading at the Qin family today, Cheng Chumo rolled his eyes and followed Qin Huayu over. However, he only came over to freeload a meal. He really didn't know that Lier was here. If he had known earlier, he definitely wouldn't have come. His Majesty, your Uncle Yuchi, and the others are all here. Since you're here, Cho-Ox, go wash your hands and accompany them to drink later." After saying that, Madame Qin led the maids into the room, leaving behind a dumbfounded Cheng Chumo. Who told you to be so smug?" Li Zishuan stepped forward and teased Cheng Chumo. Then he looked at Qin Huayu and asked, "Huayu, how are things at Cloud Mountain?" Qin Huayu said, "The construction of the academy has been completed. All that's left are some non-urgent buildings." The students of the School of Mathematics have all returned home today to prepare for the entrance exam. Everything was completed just like that. Li Zishuan was shocked when he heard that. He said in surprise, "That's fast?" Then, "Huayu, you guys have worked hard." At this moment, he just remembered that the entrance exam of Yanhuang College was about to begin, and he hadn't even started writing the exam papers. It seemed like he couldn't wander around anymore. Of course, we've worked hard. Xiao Xian, you have to compensate us well." Cheng Chumo laughed shamelessly. Li Zishuan said in annoyance, "Compensate? Isn't this lunch compensation for you? Cho-Ox, you can't eat these dishes anywhere else even if you want to." What meat is this? Why is it so fragrant?" Old Cheng, want to try it and see what it tastes like?" After the dishes were served, Chung Chumo couldn't help but salivate when he smelled the fragrance of the meat with preserved vegetables. He was eager to try it. Cough, cough. Qin Xiong coughed heavily and signaled Chung Chumo to notice that Li Er was still at the table. Chung Chumo came back to his senses and blushed. He put down his chopsticks and said awkwardly, "Cough, cough. Your Majesty, please try this first." Li Er smiled and said, "What? We haven't eaten together for so long, and now we're becoming distant." Thinking back to when Jijia was at the table, he didn't give in no matter who the other party was. Chung Chumo touched his nose and didn't say anything, but he thought to himself, "You were still the king of Qin, and we were all good brothers. Now that you're the emperor, how can I, old Chung, not be more careful?" Huh? Jijia, are you trying to say that today is different from the past? I'm already the emperor of a country, and you can't laugh and scold me like before. Also, Shu Bao, pharmacist Jinda, do you all think the same? What kind of person was Li Er? How could he not guess what Qing Yao Jin was thinking? He glanced at the people in the room and said with a meaningful smile. Chung Chumo hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "This official doesn't dare." Qin Xiong and the others also bowed slightly and said, "This official doesn't dare." Don't dare? Li Er's mood suddenly became agitated. He stood up straight and looked at everyone at the table. He said with a face full of resentment, "You all just don't dare? This means that you all really thought so in your hearts. Huh? To put it bluntly, you all are afraid. You all are afraid that I will punish you because of your words and actions. You all are afraid that I will be the emperor now, and my temperament will change greatly compared to before. You all are afraid that I will be like Liu Bang, who just ascended the throne and then killed a meritorious official. You all are afraid, aren't you?" At the end of his words, Li Er was almost shouting. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became heavy. Everyone lowered their heads and didn't say a word. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Chung Chumo was even grumbling in his heart about why he came to freeload today. In the end, he didn't even freeload the meal, but first freeload the tiger's butt. He was really unlucky. Seeing that no one responded, Li Er was even more depressed. He continued, "Today, I will tell you clearly. Although I am the emperor, Shu Bao, Jijia, and the rest of you have been with me through life and death on the battlefield, I will always treat you as my brothers. Today, I swear to the heavens that in my lifetime, I will never be like Liu Bang, and you will never be like Han Xen." Liu Bang was already more than 50 years old when he became the emperor. In his later years, he became increasingly suspicious of the meritorious officials who fought with him, especially those with different surnames. In the end, Zhang Tu, Zhang Ao, Han Wang Xin, Peng Yu, Han Xin, Ingbu, and the others were killed one after another. Ingbu even rebelled. Liu Bang personally led an army when he was ill and defeated him. After that, the country was handed over to the descendants of the Liu family. Not only that, but he also became suspicious of Xiao He. He forced him to think of ways to tarnish his reputation to arouse Emperor Yi's suspicion. In the end, he almost died. At this time, after Li Er finished speaking, he slammed the wine bowl heavily and said heroically, "Serve the wine." Li Zishuan, Qin Huaiyu, and Chung Chumo looked at each other and went to serve the wine obediently. After all, they were the only ones in the room who could be ordered. Chapter 619. Zhen has already said what needs to be said. Today, all of you, bring out the heroic spirit you had when you fought with Zhen on the battlefield. Shu Bao's old injuries have healed, and he unexpectedly broke through. Aren't you all happy? Come. There are no monarchs and ministers on the table today. Let's not go home until we're drunk. After Li Zishuan filled the empty wine bowl in front of him, Li Er picked it up and raised it in front of his chin. He said loudly to Qin Xiong, Chung Yao Jin, and the others, "Cough, cough." Chung Chumo and Qin Huaiyu, these two idiots, didn't dare to come over and pour wine for Li Zishuan, so this tough job naturally fell on Li Zishuan's head. Come, let's do it. When it comes to drinking, I, Chung Yao Jin, have never been afraid of anyone. Since your majesty said that there are no monarchs and ministers on the table today, then don't blame me when you get drunk by me. Cheng Yaojin was the most careless. He held the wine bowl and stood up as he spoke in a rough voice. Lier laughed loudly. Huh, do you think Zhen doesn't know your alcohol tolerance? If you can get Zhen drunk today, Zhen will give a daughter to your Cheng family. After Lier's sincere words, Cheng Yaojin's heart had already relaxed. His eyes lit up and he said, Your Majesty, are you serious? Li Zishuan couldn't help but feel moved. According to the official history, Cheng Yaojin's second son, Cheng Chuyang, did marry Lier's daughter, Princess Qinghe. History was always shockingly similar. A monarch doesn't joke. Although Lier's body didn't look as sturdy as Cheng Yaojin's, he still had some skills in alcohol tolerance. After all, how many emperors hadn't been baptized by alcohol? After the two of them messed around, the previous tense atmosphere instantly dissipated. Yuqi Jingde joined in the fun and said, Your Majesty, you can only believe half of Cheng Jijia's words. The older this old guy gets, the less reliable his mouth. Niu Jinda smiled and said, That's right. Jijia's alcohol tolerance can't even compare to me, old Niu. He only knows how to boast. Cheng Yaojin immediately panicked. He glared at Zhao Yu and said, Hey, I say, the two of you are starting to collude, right? Come. Watch me, old Cheng, beat the both of you up. I'll drink first to show my respect. After saying that, he picked up the wine bowl and was about to drink it all. Niu Jinda hurriedly said, Wait. What's wrong? Hey, old Niu, are you scared? Cheng Yaojin was puzzled at first, but then he said proudly. Niu Jinda spat. Bullshit. Why would I be afraid of you, madman Cheng? What I want to say is, how boring is it for you to drink one bowl after another? It wouldn't be easy to determine the winner. Why don't we compete in drinking with finger-guessing games? Your Majesty, Shu Bao, what do you think? Lier nodded. Sure. Qin Xiao nodded and said yes. When Cheng Yaojin saw this, he could only straighten his neck and say, Let's play the finger-guessing game. Come. Everyone quickly reached an agreement and prepared to start the finger-guessing game. At this moment, a discordant voice suddenly came from the field. How boring is this finger-guessing game? I know a more interesting game that's most suitable for drinking. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice and saw that it was Cheng Chumo who was eagerly making the suggestion. Go. We are drinking. You little brat, take 2 pieces of meat and scram to the side to eat. Cheng Yaojin didn't waste any time. He came up and slapped Cheng Chumo twice on the back of his head. Cheng Chumo was hit hard, and he instantly grimaced in pain. When he heard Cheng Yaojin's heartless words, he was furious. He didn't know if this guy had eaten a bear's heart or a leopard's guts, but he actually said, "I-oh, what the heck, Dad? Am I still your biological son? You can really bear to hit me and say that." Li Zishuan was the first one who couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. The rest of the people, including Lier, also laughed out loud. Cheng Yaojin's face darkened, and he was about to hit again when Lier hurriedly stopped him. "All right, Jijia, stop hitting. Let Chonyo speak. Who knows, this kid might really have some good ideas." Only then did Cheng Yaojin stop. However, he still glared fiercely at Cheng Chumo and said, "Speak, you little rascal. If you can't say anything, I'll break your legs when we get back." Cheng Chumo shrunk his neck and then began to introduce to the big bosses in the field. This game is called Every 7 Passes. The rules are very simple. You can first randomly choose a person and say any number. For example, Her Majesty says 5. Uncle Lee, you have to immediately say 6, and so on. However, whenever you encounter a number that is a multiple of 7 or a number that contains 7, that person can't say it out loud. He has to say pass. Those who don't say pass, or those who hesitate for more than 2 breaths, will all be considered to have failed. The person who fails will be punished with a glass of wine, and then the next round of the game will start from this person again. I wonder what Her Majesty and the rest of the uncles think. Li Zishuan couldn't help but cover his face. This fellow had completely copied the rules of the game that he had mentioned the other day. It was really hard on him. However, copying the game itself wasn't a problem. The problem was no. How can this game be as simple as finger-guessing? You little rascal, you're just adding to the trouble. As expected, before Lier could say anything, Chung Yaojin was the first to jump out and reprimand him. Actually, at this moment, Chung Yaojin was also sweating in his heart. Was this son really his biological son? Why did he keep tricking him? Because if they were to follow the rules of the game, the ones who would suffer the most would be him and Yuchi Jingda. Although the rest of the people were generals, they weren't like the two of them who only knew martial arts and didn't know literature. Ching Chimo had come up with such a bad idea. Wasn't this asking for his old life? Lier thought for a moment and understood the essence of this game. He suddenly found it interesting and said, Jijia, it's not right to say that. Compared to finger-guessing, this game is obviously much more fun. Let's do this today. Apart from Yuchi Jingda, the rest of the old generals all agreed. These two miserable brothers glared hatefully at Cheng Chimo. They could only obey the majority. Next, without a doubt, Qin Xiong, 19, Li Jing, 20, Cheng Yaojin, 21. No. Yuchi Jingda, who was below Cheng Yaojin, heaved a sigh of relief and then laughed loudly. Huh, Cheng Jijia, you lost. Drink first. Let's talk about other things. Yes. Drink first. Lier picked a large piece of braised meat for himself and said to Cheng Yaojin. Cheng Yaojin was helpless. He could only admit defeat and drink first. Then, the burning alcohol directly penetrated his heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys. Cheng Yaojin hurriedly picked up a piece of braised meat with his chopsticks and stuffed it into his mouth, wanting to use it to ease his pain. In the end, he was instantly stunned by the taste. As he stuffed himself, he shouted excitedly, this meat is really delicious. It looks greasy on the outside, but it's not greasy at all when eaten. TSK. Little Xian's culinary skills are really good. With these things to go with wine, I won't get drunk no matter how much I drink. Lier couldn't help but say, this is called fat, but not greasy. Cheng Jijia, why are you talking so much? Cheng Yaojin laughed dryly and said, how can my knowledge compare to His Majesty? This fried fish is also very delicious. With these dishes to go with wine today, I can definitely not get drunk after 1,000 cups. Let's continue. It's my turn. I say 13. Yuchi Jingda hurriedly said, pass. It was naturally impossible to not get drunk after 1,000 cups. After all, his strength was there. After failing again and again, old Cheng finally became cold and collapsed under the table. Li Zixuan and Cheng Chimo hurriedly apologized to Lier. The two of them dragged Cheng Yaojin and prepared to send him back to the Cheng family. Little Xian, if I do this, won't we lose our Cheng family's princess daughter-in-law? If His Majesty grants a marriage to Chu Liang, won't I be trapping my brother? Cheng Chimo thought for a long time and finally realized that something was wrong. He patted his head and said with regret. Li Zixuan pursed his lips and said, not only did you trick your brother, but you also tricked your father. Reclusive engineer in the Tang Dynasty. Chapter 620. All right, husband. When we were at the Qin Manor, you once said that you wanted to give me a surprise. Can you tell me now? After carrying Cheng Yaojin into the Cheng Manor's carriage, Li Zixuan directly brought his wife home. In the study, Li Zixuan was thinking about the students' entrance exam papers when he heard Han Yushi's gentle and slightly expectant voice. Li Zixuan put away his thoughts, turned his head, and pretended to say, yes, that seems to be the case. But as for what the surprise is, I also forgot. Husband, you. When Han Yushi heard that, she glared at Li Zixuan and said, wife, do you really want to know what the surprise is? Li Zixuan pulled Han Yushi to his side and asked with a smile, didn't you forget, husband? Even if I want to know, what's the use? Han Yushi pouted and turned her head to the side. The summer breeze blew in through the window and happened to blow a strand of hair by her ear to Li Zixuan's nose. Smelling the fragrance of the hair, Lisa Schwan felt a little itchy. He turned Han Yushi's body around and pretended to be serious. Although I've forgotten, there's a way for me to remember it immediately. Yes, come. Wife, you just need to use your lips to leave a mark of love on it. After I feel your love, I will have a flash of inspiration, and I will be able to remember everything. As Lisa Schwan spoke, he pointed to the right side of his face. However, this fellow's expression was not vulgar at all. Instead, he looked bright and upright. However, how could Han Yushi, who had been with Lisa Schwan for so long, not know that this was Lisa Schwan's little trick? She twisted her body and rolled her eyes at Lisa Schwan. Oomph. Husband can even lie with his eyes open now. I don't believe it. Hey, you little girl. Lisa Schwan's lie was exposed, so he angrily scratched Han Yushi's nose. Then he walked to the side of the bed, put his hands behind his head, and lay down. He said shamelessly, "Sai, regardless of whether you believe it or not, your husband has intermittent amnesia. If you don't give me a kiss today, your husband's amnesia won't be cured. Naturally, you won't know what the surprise is." Han Yushi was furious. She walked over and pinched Lisa Schwan's arm. "Husband, you're cheating. Shameless? Did I? I'm just telling the truth. How am I cheating?" Oomph. If that's the case, then forget it. I don't want to know what the surprise is now. Han Yushi got up and stomped her feet. She turned around and was about to leave. She loved Lisa Schwan, but she didn't want Lisa Schwan to succeed so easily. Moreover, it was still daytime. As soon as she turned around, Lisa Schwan's slightly bewitching voice came from behind. "Aya, I suddenly remembered something. It seems that this surprise is very, very important to you. Do you really not want to know?" Han Yushi stopped in her tracks and said hesitantly, "I don't want to know. I'll know when I feel that it's time." Young master and young madam. They wouldn't. Sixth grade, noble title. Husband, is what you said true? Before Xiao Shi finished speaking, there was a scream in the room. It was obvious that the owner of the voice was very excited. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lost control of his voice. In the room, the two of them were lying side by side on the bed and had already put on their clothes. However, from their messy hair and messy bed sheets, it was obvious that they had a fierce battle just now. "Shoo, lower your voice. Wife, you're trying to invite someone else in." Lisa Schwan hurriedly covered his wife's mouth and then glanced at the door with a guilty conscience. If someone else came in now, it wouldn't be a big deal for him as a man. However, he was afraid that Han Yushi would be blamed because of this and be afraid of intimacy in the future. That wouldn't be worth it. Chapter 621. Inside the house, Han Yushi motioned for Lisa Schwan to let go of her hand. Then, she took a deep breath. Although she looked excited, she tried her best to lower her voice and said, "Husband, I haven't even seen His Majesty today. Why would he give me the title of nobility?" Lisa Schwan smiled and said, "What's so strange about that? Although you haven't seen His Majesty, you have trained your husband well and cultivated such an outstanding talent like me. Of course, His Majesty will reward you." Lisa Schwan shamelessly praised himself as he combed Han Yushi's long hair. In his previous life, he liked girls with long black hair very much. However, many modern girls found it too troublesome to take care of long hair. It was too hot in the summer and too cold in the winter when they washed their hair, so they usually couldn't keep it. Now that he was back in ancient times, he could finally fulfill this small wish of his. Han Yushi's was the standard long hair that reached her waist. She was extremely beautiful. Trained your husband well? Han Yushi's expression froze. After she reacted, she said angrily, "Husband, you're talking nonsense again. You're already very outstanding. What does it have to do with me?" After saying that, her mood inexplicably became a little depressed. When Lisa Schwan saw this, he quickly turned sideways and caressed Han Yushi's little face with his hand. He said softly, "I'm not talking nonsense. If it weren't for my wife urging me, I might be walking around with a group of rich playboys in Chang'an City right now, or hanging around in brothels. How would I have the perseverance and willpower to go to that Yanhuang college? Husband, don't go to that kind of place. The women there are not worthy of you. When Han Yushi heard about brothels, her nerves immediately became sensitive. She said anxiously. Lisa Schwan smiled and said, "Yes, I'm not going. In this world, only my wife is worthy of me. I only want to be intimate with my wife." Han Yushi's ears turned red. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito as she sighed. This concubine is also not worthy of my husband." Lisa Schwan's eyes widened, and he suddenly shouted excitedly, "You are worthy. Who dares to say that my wife is not worthy of him? Even if you're from a commoner's family, even if you don't understand poetry, even if you're not from a noble family, you're still worthy. If I say you're worthy, then you're worthy. You don't need to learn poetry, you don't need to learn accounting, and you don't need to worry about other people's gossip. Do you understand?" "Husband." Han Yushi's eyes were filled with tears as she stared blankly at Lisa Schwan. She wanted to say something, but nothing came out of her mouth. Lisa Schwan held Han Yushi in his arms and rested his chin on her forehead. He said softly, "Remember, my wife, from now on, you only need to accompany me and grow old together. I will help you solve other things. If others feel that your status is low and you're not worthy of me, then I will find an official position for you. Let's see who dares to gossip behind my back in the future. Wife, it's fine if you don't know how to do accounting and manage the family. I will earn mountains of gold and silver for you. Even if our children and grandchildren are all prodigals, they will never be able to squander the family fortune. Wife, it's even more fine if you don't know poetry. When you want to write poems, tell me, and I will write them for you. You can write whatever you want. Actually, our life doesn't need to be so complicated. I love you, you love me. It's that simple. We will love simply in the future and live together simply. Okay? Wow. These ordinary and touching words of love, which seemed to be a reprimand on the surface, but were actually full of concern, made Han Yushi unable to hold it in anymore. She burst into tears and buried her head in Lisa Schwan's arms as she sobbed. Husband, sob. I'm sorry I was wrong. I won't have those messy thoughts in the future. I'll accompany you well in the future. I won't study poetry anymore. At this moment, she realized that Lisa Schwan wasn't lying to her when he said that this surprise was related to her future life. In the past, in order to make herself worthy of Lisa Schwan, she had been working hard to learn this and that. She originally thought that he couldn't tell, but she didn't expect that the man beside her had long noticed all of this and kept it in his heart. He even put in a lot of effort to untie the knot in her heart. When she thought of this, self-reproach, sweetness, happiness, and gratitude instantly surged into her heart. Han Yushi's tears flowed endlessly like a flood breaking through a dam. In just a short while, Lisa Schwan's chest was already wet. Lisa Schwan quickly patted Han Yushi's back and comforted her gently. All right. Wife, don't cry. Now that you have an official position, even the county magistrate will have to bow to you when you see him in the future. This is a joyous occasion. Wife, don't cry. Stand cough. In the modern era, there were all kinds of nonsense. Lisa Schwan almost said, Wife, don't cry. Stand up and masturbate. Fortunately, the old driver drove steadily and braked in time. Otherwise, there would definitely be a car accident. Han Yushi, who was in a complicated mood, didn't notice the abnormality. She sobbed twice and then wiped her tears. She used Lisa Schwan's clothes to wipe her tears. She raised her head and said, And you're right, husband. This is a joyous occasion. I won't cry. It's so late. Oh no, since His Majesty has given me an imperial edict, then there should be an imperial edict in the afternoon. But Husband, did we miss the imperial edict? Han Yushi looked at the sky, and only then did she notice that the sun was about to set. She suddenly thought of the 6th rank title and couldn't help but exclaim with a panicked expression. Lisa Schwan patted Han Yushi's shoulder and said with a smile, Wife, you're thinking too much. His Majesty drank a lot in the afternoon. He's probably still in the land of tenderness. Where would he have the time to get someone to draft an imperial edict? The imperial edict bestowing the title of wife will probably only be sent tomorrow. Han Yushi heard that and couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. She patted her chest and said, "Oh, that's good, that's good. It's all your fault, husband. Xiao He and the others must have noticed something. Aya, forget it. Let's not care about this. I have to go to the kitchen and arrange for someone to cook. Otherwise, father and mother will be anxious from waiting." After that, she left Li Zishuan and got up in a hurry to go out. Li Zishuan was speechless. He thought to himself, "Is it my fault for lasting too long?" He looked at Han Yushi's back and added, "Wife, remember to make a plate of scrambled eggs with chives and roast a plate of pork kidney tonight." Han Yushi's tender face turned red when she heard that. She said unhappily, "Stinky husband, you haven't been serious all day. I'm ignoring you." After she finished speaking, she really didn't bother with Li Zishuan and directly fled. Chapter 622. The next day, Li Zishuan slept in, which was rare. On one hand, it was because he had been in seclusion for the past month to compile teaching materials. He would work overtime every night, which exhausted a lot of his physical and mental strength. On the other hand, it was because this guy had another wave last night and worked overtime in bed. Under such circumstances, he could not get up in the morning. But as the person involved, Han Yushi didn't feel sleepy at all. She didn't feel sleepy at all. She knew that Li Zishuan was very tired during this period of time, so she didn't wake him up. Instead, she walked out of the room alone and brought Xiao He, Xiao Shi, and the others to practice Tai Chi. Today, Han Yushi felt more and more that Tai Chi was very beneficial to the body. Not to mention that her husband and her adoptive father had broken through because of Tai Chi. After practicing Tai Chi for more than 2 months, the most direct feeling was that she was very energetic every day. Secondly, she could barely cope with Li Zishuan's various torments at night. The 3 beauties were practicing Tai Chi outside. The scenery was very beautiful, but Li Zishuan had no time to care about it. He lay in bed and slept soundly, going on a date with Zhou Gong. "Hubby, get up quickly. Mr. Li Gang is here." After an unknown period of time, Li Zishuan faintly heard a melodious voice ringing in his ears. He muttered somewhat unwillingly, "Oh, who's here?" Han Yushi had no choice but to repeat, "Hubby, Mr. Li Gang is here. He's waiting in the front yard. Get up quickly." Li Zishuan heard it clearly this time. He immediately turned over and jumped off the bed, saying, "Mr. Li is here? How long has he been here?" This guy looked at the sunlight outside and knew that it was not early. As he spoke, he hurriedly put on his clothes and buttoned a button wrong in his hurry. Seeing this, Han Yushi sighed helplessly. Without any hesitation, she stepped forward to help Li Zishuan put on his clothes. She said, "Husband, don't worry. Mr. Li Gang has just arrived. There are 2 other people who came with him. They look quite old. Father is accompanying them in the front hall." Li Zishuan asked, "Dad, didn't you go out to play chess with someone today?" The chess he was talking about was Go. Of course, it didn't mean that there was only Go in the Tang Dynasty and no Chinese chess. In fact, there were both types of chess in the Tang Dynasty. Go had been circulating in China's upper class since the spring and autumn period. Chinese chess was relatively late and only became popular during the Warring States period. A few months ago, after Li Jingma handed over the family business to Li Zishuan, he happily became a rich man. In the morning, he usually played chess with others in the tea house, and in the afternoon, he usually went shopping with Mrs. Li or went sightseeing in the suburbs of Chang'an. He was really comfortable. Not yet. Mother said that the imperial edict might come to our house today. She asked father not to go out. After Han Yushi helped Li Zishuan put on his clothes, she began to pull Li Zishuan to the dressing table to help him comb his hair. At this time, when she heard Li Zishuan's question, she answered softly, "Oh." Li Zishuan responded. Then, he complained in his heart, "I don't know if old Li has recovered today after drinking so much yesterday. He's not like me, who can sleep in the morning." Li Er, who had dark circles under his eyes and was in low spirits, yawned inexplicably on the dragon throne. Wei Zheng, who was standing below, couldn't help but frown. "Mr. Li, you're here. We're honored by your presence. Please forgive us for not going out to meet you." After washing up, Li Zixuan came to the main hall in the front yard. When he saw Li Gang and two unfamiliar old men, he quickly went forward and greeted them politely. Li Gang didn't buy it. He pointed at Li Zixuan and scolded, "What do you mean by not going out to meet you? I think you just woke up, right?" He had been with Li Zixuan for so long and had long regarded Li Zixuan as his own junior. When he saw the situation, he couldn't help but say a few more words. Cough, cough. Li Zixuan blushed and said awkwardly, "Well, I've been too tired to compile teaching materials for the academy recently, so I woke up a little late today. I didn't expect Mr. Li to come in person. Otherwise, I wouldn't have woken up so late." Li Gang glanced at Li Zixuan's legs and wanted to say, "Young people should pay attention to self-control." But when he considered that it would embarrass Li Zixuan in front of others, he could only change his words and say, "Diligence is the key to success. Yanwang College will soon be on the right track. Little Xian, don't slack off at this time." Li Zixuan cupped his hands and said, "I understand." At this time, Li Jima finally had a chance to interrupt. He stood up and said to Li Zixuan, "Little Xian, Mr. Li Gang has come to our house. You have to treat him well and don't neglect him. Father will go and order people to prepare lunch. You stay here and accompany these gentlemen." The people who came today were all influential figures. He felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. When Li Gang reprimanded his son, he could only listen. He couldn't say that Li Gang's reprimand was wrong. After all, Li Gang's name was so famous. Li Zixuan knew that his father wanted to sneak away, but he didn't expose him. He replied, "Father, go do what you need to do. I'll stay here." Li Jingma nodded and cupped his hands to everyone. Then he hurried out. This kid is in a high position, but he can still accept criticism. His temperament is not bad. After Li Gang left, an old man with half-white hair, sitting on Li Gang's right, stroked his beard and laughed. "Sir, you flatter me." Although Li Zixuan didn't know who this person was, he still cupped his hands and thanked him. This was because he understood that the person who was brought here by Li Gang must have an extraordinary identity and ability. Li Gang pointed at the old man and introduced him to Li Zixuan. "Little Xian, let me introduce you. This is Dragon Gate's Wang Ji, Wang Wugong. People call him Dong Gaozi. You must have read his biography of Mr. Wudo, right? Mr. Wang is a true literary figure. This old man spent a lot of effort to invite him over. You mustn't neglect him." Li Zixuan was confused. Wang Wugong, Dong Gaozi, biography of Mr. Wudo. He had never heard of any of these before. He was a complete engineering guy in his previous life. If you're talking about awesome people like Li Bai, Du Fu, Bai Juyi, he would definitely know them. However, he had never heard of Wang Ji. But it didn't matter because this guy knew how to act. So it's you, Mr. Wang. I'm sorry for the disrespect. After I read your biography of Mr. Wudo, I admired your noble character very much. I'm really lucky to be able to see you in person today." Li Zixuan silently gave Li Gang 32 likes. Li was really a good friend. He even mentioned Wang Ji's representative work. This teammate was really 66666. Chapter 623. Wang Ji, courtesy name Wugong, also known as Dong Gaozi, was from Jiangzhou Longmen, a Tang Dynasty doctor and famous poet. Many people might not know the name Wang Ji, but this person had a very powerful grandnephew, Wang Bo, the head of the 4 heroes of the Tang Dynasty. Wang Bo was the grandson of Wang Ji's brother, Wang Tong. Speaking of Wang Tong, he was also a famous doctor and a very famous scholar. In the 3rd year of Emperor Wen's life, Wang Tong once traveled west to Chang and met Emperor Wen and presented the 12 strategies for Taiping, respected the way of the king, and analyzed the past and the present. But he was not used. Probably because of the recommendation of his hometown friend, Xue Daoheng, he was given the position of Assistant Secretary of Shu County and Assistant Minister of Shu King. But Wang Tong was not satisfied, so he resigned and became a private educator in his hometown. Later on, he devoted himself to the study of Confucius's 6 classics. It is said that he once studied under Li Yu of the Eastern Sea, studied poetry under Xia Dian of the Huiji, and inquired about etiquette under Guan Ziming of the River East. After studying, Wang Tong felt that he had learned something, so he imitated Confucius and wrote Wang's 6 classics, or continued 6 classics. He began to gather disciples and give lectures at Bai Niushi in his hometown. The number of disciples is often in the hundreds. Only Hunan Dongheng, Nanyang Chengyuan, Zhongshan Jiaqiong, Hedong Shueshou, Taishan Yao Yi, Taiyuan Yanba, Jingzhou Dian, and a dozen others are outstanding. Yao Yi is generous, so Zhongyu. Shueshou is knowledgeable, so Zhuangzhou. Other than that, it was said that Tang Dynasty officials like Fang Xianling and Wei Zheng were also Wang Tong's disciples, but there was no direct evidence to prove it. As for Wang Ji, he was promoted to the position of secretary during the end of the Sui dynasty. But he was not happy in the court, so he resigned on the pretext of illness and returned to being Yangzhou's 6 harmonies minister. When the world was in chaos, he resigned and returned to his hometown. In the Tang dynasty, he ordered the court officials to wait for the imperial decree. At the beginning of the Tang dynasty, he resigned and returned to Hezhou to farm in Donggaozi, calling himself Donggaozi. He was arrogant, addicted to alcohol, and could drink wudo. He wrote biography of Mr. Wudo, Wine Classic, Wine, and Zhuang. In history, this person's literary achievements were quite high. Later generations evaluated him as follows. His poetry is close but not shallow. His quality is not ordinary. He is frank and unrestrained. He is open-minded and lofty. He chases after the high winds of Wei and Jin. The body of laws originated from the 6 dynasties and took shape between the Sui and Tang dynasties. Wang Ji was depressed all his life. During the Sui and Tang dynasties, he was an official and retired 3 times. His heart was set on an official career, but he knew that it would be difficult for him to achieve great things. Therefore, he retired to the mountains and the countryside, entertaining himself with music, wine, and poetry. After he abandoned his official position and lived in seclusion in his hometown, Donghao village, he indulged himself in alcohol and indulged himself. His thinking was deeply influenced by Taoism. Most of his poems were based on the love of wine, praising Jikong and Ruanji, and praising Tao Yuanming with the content of the idyllic and leisurely life. Later generations compiled it into the collection of Donggaozi. At this time, in the main hall, Wang Ji heard Li Zishuan's sincere praise, and a smile appeared on his old face. He said humbly, "Haha, you really know how to talk, but I'm just a country bumpkin. I don't deserve your praise. I heard that you've set up an academy. I like to see it for myself." Actually, Wang Ji couldn't be blamed for not being able to see that Li Zishuan was acting. It was just that Li Zishuan's acting was too realistic. The admiration and praise on his face were just right. If it was more, it would appear hypocritical, and if it was less, it would appear insincere. If he was in modern times, he could be an Oscar winner. Li Zishuan smiled and said, "Since ancient times, learning has always been the most important thing in every dynasty. However, it is harder for the poor to enter the academy than to ascend to the heavens. Therefore, I founded Yanwang Academy to establish my heart for the world and life for the people. I want everyone who is interested in learning to be able to learn useful things. Good. What a good heart for the world. What a good life for the people." The Li family's boy is really bold. When Wang Ji heard these 2 sentences, he couldn't help but slap the table in praise. He laughed and said, "Just based on these 2 sentences, I'll drink to the heavens." After saying that, he picked up the teacup beside him and tilted his head back to pour it into his mouth. As a result, ba. It's actually tea. You're not honest. Why didn't you serve me wine when I came here?" Wang Ji complained as he spat out the sour, sweet, bitter, spicy, and salty tea in his mouth. Li Zishuan blushed with shame. He hurriedly asked someone to bring the iced wine from home and said, "Cough, cough. Mr. Wugong, please wait a moment." The wine will be here soon. Another old man on the side pointed at Wang Ji and scolded jokingly. Wu Gong, after so many years, you're still so addicted to wine. Wang Ji didn't feel ashamed. Instead, he felt proud and said, so what? If a person lives a lifetime without wine, what's the point of living? It's better to die. Everyone was shocked by these words. What did he mean by addicted to wine? This was what it meant to be addicted to wine. In comparison, those drunkards in other people's mouths were simply too weak. Fragrant, 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 so fragrant. At this moment, a maid from the Li residence brought in a pot of wine. The spout of the wine pot was emitting cold air, and, at the same time, it also brought out bursts of wine fragrance. Wang Ji's nose twitched like a pug as he greedily sniffed the wine fragrance in the air. The image of an otherworldly expert from before instantly disappeared without a trace. Li Zishuan's jaw dropped to the ground. Wang Ji didn't care about these things, or rather, he didn't care about these things at all. At this moment, he closed his eyes and was deeply intoxicated. Soft and mellow, mixed with the fragrance of mountain fruits. The ratio of each is just right. The fruit borrows the strength of the wine, but the wine dissolves the fragrance of the wine. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It's really wonderful. This winemaker can be called a master. Li Zishuan was speechless. Wasn't this the most ordinary of warm and gentle wine? Why did Wang Ji's words make it sound like the nectar of heaven? With the expansion of the winery and the improvement of the technology, although the current drunken immortal and warm and gentle wine were not cheap goods that could be found on the streets, the daily production capacity was already 2 to 3 times higher than before. At the very least, there was no need to line up everywhere to drink drunken immortal now. As long as you had the money, you could drink it. Therefore, Li Zishuan was very puzzled by Wang Ji's current behavior. Li Gang's old face turned red. He secretly thought that his old friend was really embarrassing. He coughed dryly and said, cough, cough. Wugong, this is warm and gentle wine. It's sold in all the major restaurants in Chang'an City. If you like it, I'll ask Xiao Xian to give you some later. The expression on Wang Ji's face suddenly froze. However, this guy was also a clever person. Seeing his frozen old face, he immediately changed into an expression of reminiscence and said, oh, so it's warm and gentle wine. I drank it a few times in the past, but I didn't drink it after that. After such a long time, I almost forgot the taste. Li Zishuan was stunned for 2 seconds. He thought to himself, I don't believe you. Warm and gentle wine and drunken immortal only appeared this year. You still have a nerve to say that you haven't drunk it for so long and have forgotten the taste? He never expected this old guy to start acting with him. Life is really like a play, and it all depends on acting. Chapter 624. You old thing. In the main hall of the Li residence, after Wang Ji finished speaking, Li Zishuan did not expose the lie in front of him in order to give him some face. However, another old man sitting opposite him pointed at Wang Ji and scolded him with a smile. However, that old man only scolded him jokingly and didn't probe further. He probably knew that Wang Ji was living in seclusion in the remote Donghao village, and his family wasn't well off. It was normal that he hadn't heard of the gentle village. Li Zishuan stood up and said, I haven't asked for this gentleman's name yet. Li Gang patted his head and said, oh, I forgot to introduce you. This is... Hee. Wenji, why do you have to go through so much trouble? That old man saw that Li Gang was going to introduce himself, like how he introduced Wang Ji. He quickly waved his hand and interrupted him. Then, he looked at Li Zishuan and said casually, I'm Yin Silu. I don't have as much fame as Wang Wugong. I'm just a scholar who relied on my late father's shadow. Oh, right, my late father, Yin Jitue. I'm sure you've heard of it before. Li Zishuan was stunned for a moment. He only felt that the name Yin Jitue sounded very familiar. After searching his mind carefully, he was suddenly shocked. Yin Jitue. It was actually Yin Jitue, the man who wrote Yin Family Teachings. Yin Jitue lived his life and served 4 dynasties. 3 times, he was a man of a fallen country. He suffered the pain of separation and was deeply worried. Throughout his life, he didn't have any outstanding achievements, nor was he a prominent official. However, because of Yin family teachings, he enjoyed 1,000 years of fame. From this, one could see the far-reaching influence of his family teachings. Yin family teachings was written by Yin Jite during the Northern and Southern dynasties. It influenced China's ancient family teachings for more than 2,000 years. It had the reputation of ancient and modern family teachings, with this as the ancestor. It was the most famous family teachings in China's history. Back then, Lu Xun's younger brother, Zhou Zuoren, greatly respected and admired Yin Jitue and the Yin family teachings. He specially wrote a note on the Yin family teachings in the night reading. Moreover, throughout history, the descendants of the Yin family had astonishing performances in terms of integrity and talent. Just in the Tang Dynasty alone, people like Yin Shirgu, Yin Silu's eldest son, who annotated the Book of Han, Yin Jinxing, whose calligraphy was a model for the world, and Yin Gaoqing, whose awe-inspiring integrity shook the world for thousands of years, and Yin Gaoqing, who died for the country, and so on, all gave people an extraordinary and deep impression of the Yin family, and also proved the effectiveness of the family teachings set by their ancestors. Even in the Song and Yuan dynasties, the Yin clan members continued to be officials, making the people of the Ming and Qing dynasties extremely envious. So you're a descendant of Master Yin. Sorry for the disrespect. Sir, you must be joking. If you are a sour Confucian, then there is no real Confucian in this world. Li Zishuan came back to his senses and cupped his hands solemnly at Yin Silu. His solemnity was not fake, but sincere. In that moment, just now, he had already recalled some of Yin Jitue's deeds. If you remember correctly, Yin Jitue had an extremely famous descendant, and that was Yin Jinxing, the man who was known as the four great families of regular calligraphy, along with Zhao Mengfu, Lu Gongquan, and Ouyang Sun. Later generations said that Yin Jinxing's status in the history of calligraphy in China was very high. Other than Wang Shiji, no one could be compared to him. Since Yin Jinxing was a descendant of Yin Jitue, then wasn't he also a descendant of Yin Silu in front of him? Yin Jinxing was Yin Silu's sixth grandson. Phew, you changed your mind so quickly. You were just praising this old man. Now you're praising this sour old man. Wang Ji, who was drinking at the side, couldn't help but say sourly when he saw Li Zishuan's appearance. Li Zishuan couldn't help but sweat. What do you mean by changing my mind so quickly? You're not a F** King Beauty, so why would I change my mind? Eating and sitting without manners. Wang Wugong, you really don't act like an elder at all. As soon as Wang Ji finished speaking, Yin Silu beat him to it and mocked him. Li Zishuan could see that these two old men were completely different from the old-fashioned scholars he usually saw. One had a carefree personality, and the other was easygoing and didn't put on airs. No matter what, Li Zishuan felt that it was a pleasant thing to get along with these two old men, so he couldn't help but give Li Gang 32 likes in his heart. Hee hee, both of you are people of virtue and prestige. No matter who it is, I have admired you for a long time. There's no need to quarrel over such a small matter. Li Zishuan smiled and tried to smooth things over. Yin Silu's eyes flashed, and he said with a smile, Li family's boy, don't beat around the bush. Tell me the truth. Do you want to invite the two of us to teach at your college? Li Zishuan was slightly speechless. He originally planned to chat a bit more, then have a meal and drink together later, and then invite them to join Yinhuang College. After all, in modern times, wasn't this the process of inviting people to do things? He didn't expect Yin Silu to be so direct, but since things had already come to this, he had nothing to hide. So he cupped his hands and said to the two of them, to be honest, I have the same intention. I hope the two of you can come to Yinhuang College to teach and educate people. Yinhuang College has just been built, and other than Mr. Li Gang, there is no one else of virtue and prestige. If the two of you can join, Yinhuang College will definitely be able to reach a higher level. Among them, Lisa Xuan didn't know what other skills Wang Ji had other than writing good essays. However, Yin Silu was different. First, he had scholarly prestige, and second, he had personal cultivation. If he could come to Yanhuang College to help manage the students, Lisa Xuan felt that he would be able to save a lot of trouble. As for Wang Ji, Lisa Xuan felt that his personality was good, and he was pleasing to the eye. In addition, he was recommended by Li Gang, so Lisa Xuan felt that he might as well hire both of them. Wang Ji, who was enjoying the warmth of a woman while listening to the compliments, had no idea that he had become a buy-one-get-one free gift in someone's heart. Hee, I have nothing to do at home. If it weren't for Li Wenji's multiple invitations, I wouldn't have come here today. You are also a famous person in Chang, and this year, and I've heard a lot of rumors about you. But today, you said set your heart for heaven and earth, and set your life for the people, which made me see you in Yanhuang College in a new light. I'm even a little glad that I came here today. Yin Silu shook his head and sighed. Lisa Xuan saw this and was delighted. He asked, "So, Mr. Yin, you agree?" "Yes. You, a young man, can set your heart for heaven and earth, and set your life for the people. How can an old man like me, who is about to know his destiny, shrink back?" Yin Silu stroked his beard and nodded with a smile. Chapter 625. Oh, this old man also agreed. How about it? Kid, don't you feel honored? You must know that over the years, many people have wanted to invite this old man to come out of retirement, but this old man rejected them all. Seeing Lisa Xuan and Yin Silu chatting passionately, Wang Ji felt that he was being neglected, so he interrupted somewhat unwillingly. Lisa Xuan almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. Sure enough, some people couldn't be judged by their appearance. When he first saw Wang Ji, he thought that this old man was an otherworldly expert, but now, let's not talk about it anymore. Mr. Wang also agreed. That's really great. To be able to invite the two of you is this kid's honor, and it's also the honor of the thousands of students of Yanhuang College. Lisa Xuan was still a very polite and good young man. He didn't slap Wang Ji's face, but instead put on a happy expression and cooperated with him. And, sure enough, Wang Ji stroked his beard with a comforted look on his face. Lisa Xuan's hands were itching when he saw this. Oh, that's right. This old man isn't that easy to invite. If you want this old man to help you teach students, you have to agree to one condition. Wang Ji stroked his beard for a while and suddenly said seriously. Lisa Xuan's cheeks twitched imperceptibly. He restrained his emotions and said, "What condition? Sir, just say it." But in his heart, he secretly thought, when did a free gift become so troublesome? This old man doesn't have any self-awareness. Li Gang and Yin Silu immediately cast a contemptuous look over. Wang Ji's old face turned red, and he hurriedly coughed twice to hide his embarrassment. But he still insisted and said, "Cough, cough. Kid, if this old man goes to your college to teach, will there be good wine for me? And just this kind of gentle village will do. How about 5 buckets a month?" 5 buckets a month? Lisa Xuan almost fell to the ground when he heard this. What kind of concept was 5 dough? 1 bucket of wine in the Tang Dynasty was about 6,000 milliliters in modern times, which is about 12 caddies. 5 buckets was 60 caddies. Drinking 60 caddies of wine in 1 month, Lisa Xuan only wanted to say one sentence at this moment. Furthermore, according to the current market price of 2 strings of coins per liter, these 5 buckets of Gentle Village would be 100 strings of coins. 100 strings of coins. Even though Lisa Xuan wasn't lacking in money, the salary of a Yanhuang College teacher was still there. Previously, Yanhuang College's salary was 10 strings of cash per month for teaching assistants, 20 strings of cash per month for lecturers, 50 strings of cash per month for associate professors, and 100 strings of cash per month for professors, and 100 strings of cash per month for professors, and 100 strings of cash per month for Yanhuang College. Wang Wugong, you old man, do you really think it, Mr. Wudou? You want 5 buckets of wine as soon as you open your mouth? Yin Silu was a native of Chang, and He was very clear about the current market price of Gentle Village. At this time, after hearing Wang Ji's request, he spoke out with some dissatisfaction. Speaking of Wang Ji's title of Mr. Wu Do, it could be said that there was a lot of history behind it. First of all, Wang Ji himself wasn't as bad as Li Zishuan thought. Someone who treated him as a gift was a bit ignorant. Actually, Wang Ji was a very talented person. In the 20th year of Sui Kai Wang Ji, who was only 15 years old, traveled to the capital in Chang and to visit the powerful minister Yang Su. He was called the child prodigy fairy by the ministers present. In the first year of the Day Dynasty, Wang Ji was a filial and honest official. But this guy was smart, but he was a bit lazy. Moreover, he was addicted to alcohol. At first, because of his arrogant nature, he didn't want to serve in the imperial court, so he was appointed as the deputy county magistrate of Yangzhou. But because he was addicted to alcohol, he was impeached and dismissed. Actually, he didn't care about the official position. He sighed and said, "The net is in the sky. I'll settle down." At this time, the Sui dynasty was in chaos. He and the hermit Zhongzong Wang were drinking wine, composing poems, and raising bird for fun. In the 8th year of Tang Wuda, the imperial court recruited the officials of the previous dynasty. Wang Ji was appointed as an official under the imperial court. According to the rules of the imperial court, he was given 3 liters of good wine every day. His brother Wang Jing asked, "Are you happy waiting for the imperial court?" He replied, "Waiting for the imperial court salary is low and lonely. Only the 3 liters of good wine makes people reluctant to part with it." When Shinshuda heard about it, he increased the wine from 3 liters to 1 do. At the end of the 9th year of Wuda, Li Er killed his brother and imprisoned his father. Wang Ji was once again recruited by the imperial court and appointed as a minister. At that time, Shi Jiaoge of the Tailu department was good at brewing wine. After Wang Ji heard about it, he was a bit restless. He hesitated for a long time and finally made up his mind. He told the big boss of the Ministry of Personnel that he requested to be transferred to the Tailu department to be the Tailu minister. At that time, the Minister of Personnel should have been Zhongsun Wuji. When the old fox heard Wang Ji's strange request, his old face turned black. He then refuted it with the reason that it did not match the rank. Minister of Personnel is a concubine of the 4th rank, while the Tailu minister is a concubine of the 8th rank. I have to say, for the sake of drinking wine, this guy is really capable of doing anything. After Wang Ji received Zhongsun Wuji's reply, he did not give up. He sent Zhongsun Wuji a request again and again, stating that he had to go to the Tailu department. At first, Zhongsun Wuji did not take it to heart. However, he could not stand this guy's daily harassment and finally appointed him according to his request. When Wang Ji received the appointment, he was naturally overjoyed. He felt that he could finally drink good wine every day. However, the good times did not last long. At the beginning of the Jingguan period, Jiao Gu passed away. However, Jiao Ji's wife continued to send wine to Wang Ji. However, not long after, Jiao Ji's wife also passed away. Wang Ji could not help but look up to the sky and sigh. The heavens do not want me to indulge in good wine. Is it because the heavens do not want me to indulge in good wine? After a few days, this guy felt that there was no point in continuing to stay in Chang'an. Thus, he gave up his position and left. After that, he wrote the biography of Mr. Wu Do in the Donghao village where he lived in seclusion. It was unintentionally spread by others, and he instantly became famous. That was how the title of Mr. Wu Do came to be. At this moment, when Wang Ji heard Yin Silu's dissatisfied words, he glared at him and said, I, Wang Wugong, dare to ask for 5 do of wine because I am worth the price. Can you, Yin Silu, do you think you can do it?" Yin Silu said angrily, "What do you mean? You, Wang Wugong, other than drinking wine and writing a few lines of poetry, what else can you do? Why are you worthy of 5 do of gentle wine? Do you know that these 5 do of gentle wine are worth 100 strings of coins?" "Worth 100 strings of coins?" When Wang Ji heard this, he immediately panicked. If Yin Silu did not mention it, he really would not know that the wine he was drinking now was actually so expensive. Oh my God, the price of one dough of wine is enough for this old man to drink for half a year. Oh no, oh no. Am I going to let Yin Silu see this old man as a joke? Wang Ji's heart was a little bitter at this moment, but he could not say it out loud. Chapter 626. Hey, so what if it's worth 100 strings of coins? Seeing Yin Shirlu looking at him provocatively, the temper buried in Wang Ji's heart surged. He straightened his neck and said indignantly, "Who said this old man only knows how to write poems and drink wine? The best thing about me is that no matter what I learn, I'm faster than you, Yin Kong." Yin Shirlu glared at him and said, "Ha, you're really a toad yawning. What big words." Wang Ji seemed to have recovered by now. He raised his chin slightly and said proudly, I'm telling the truth. Don't doubt me when you return Yin Kong. Let's talk about playing the zither first. I learned it for less than half a month and mastered it thoroughly. Can you do it? There's also bird training. I learned how to raise birds from others in my early years, and I mastered the knack of it in just a month. I even tamed 2 owls. Can you do it? Oh, right, and stop. Yin Shirlu, whose face was as black as the bottom of a pot because of Wang Ji's repeated questions of, "Can you do it if you're in my place?" hurriedly interrupted him. Are you flaunting your idleness as capital? I only found out today that you, Wang Wugong, are so thick-skinned. Wang Ji wasn't annoyed by Yin Shirlu's sarcasm. Instead, he smiled meaningfully and said, "What is a proper occupation? What is a side occupation? I, Wang Wugong, don't have a proper occupation to begin with. Or rather, everything is my proper occupation. The world is big, but life is short. Why don't I do what I want to do while I'm alive? Why do I have to work so hard?" Li Zixuan's eyes flickered slightly. He thought to himself, this Wang Ji's personality is really open-minded. Yin Shilu didn't buy it. He said directly, "Then why do you still go to Yanhuang College to teach? Aren't you afraid of being troubled by your work?" Wang Ji seemed to be prepared for this question. He didn't even think about it, and answered, "Haha, I'm going to the Yanhuang Academy because I'm interested, not because I'm working on a case." Speaking of which, the Yanhuang Academy that Xiao Xian built was probably built to teach the 4 books and 5 classics, right? Right now, he is in need of a talented person like me who has an extraordinary learning ability. Do you think this old man is worth his monthly salary of 5 buckets of wine? Yin Shirlu said with a straight face, "Nonsense. Don't tell me you think that with your talent in playing with chickens and dogs, you could be like a fish in water in Little Xian's engineering. You're just being arrogant. Sooner or later, you'll harm others and yourself." Wang Jimmy took a sip of wine and said nonchalantly, Wang Jimmy, have never tried it before. How do you know it won't work? Could it be that you're feeling guilty?" Humph. Yin Shirlu was so angry that he rolled his eyes. He simply couldn't be bothered with this egomaniac. Li Zixuan saw that the atmosphere was a little awkward. He thought for a while and said, "I am deeply honored that the 3 of you could come to my humble abode today. Moreover, we will be colleagues soon. There's no need to be angry over such a small matter. To show my sincerity, I will personally cook a few dishes for all of you. I will also send someone to invite Elder Mo over. The academy is about to start, so let's have a gathering today." Li Gang clapped and laughed. "Good. I've long heard that your skills in food are at the peak of perfection. You must have cooked lunch at Qin Manor yesterday, right? I heard that even His Majesty was full of praise for your culinary skills. Today, us old fellows are in for a treat." When Wang Ji heard Li Gang's words, he suddenly felt a little saliva in his mouth. He licked his lips and said excitedly, "Very good, very good. Only good dishes are worthy of good wine. Today, let's see if your culinary skills are worthy of this wine-making skill." Li Zixuan couldn't be bothered to bicker with this old fellow. He stood up and prepared to leave. "Hey, kid, wait." As Li Zixuan stood up, Wang Ji's voice came from behind him. "Kid, let me take a look at the knowledge that Yanhuang College is going to impart to you in the future. Firstly, it's so that you know what to do. Secondly, as the host, You abandoned your guests and ran away. You should at least leave a few books for us old fellows to relieve our boredom." Li Zishuan thought that it made sense. He thought to himself that this old fellow had finally said something serious. Thus, he called a servant girl over and whispered a few words to her. After the servant girl received his orders and left, Li Zishuan cupped his fists and said to the three old men sitting in the main hall, "Please wait for a moment. Sirs, please wait here for a moment. In a while, the servants will send over the 4 teaching materials compiled by this kid. Please feel free to take a look. I'm going to arrange for lunch." Li Gang waved his hand and said, "Go." Li Zishuan cupped his fists and left. When he arrived at the back kitchen, he didn't see Li Jingma. Li Zishuan thought to himself that it was as expected. He knew that his father was just declining when he said that he was going to the back kitchen to arrange lunch. Now that the Li family had a young mistress, how could Li Jingma be the one to worry about cooking? Not only did he not have to worry about it, but the food had also improved a lot. As a matter of fact, Li Jingma had started to put on weight recently. "Husband, why don't you let me do it? You can help me watch from the side." "You?" But perhaps this was telepathy. As soon as Li Zishuan walked into the kitchen, Han Yushi seemed to have guessed the purpose of Li Zishuan's visit before he said anything. Thus, the two of them had a conversation. "Husband, you should still be cooking the 5 dishes from yesterday, right?" Han Yushi asked with a faint smile. Li Zishuan nodded and said, "Yes, that's right. Look at how confident you are. Could it be that you know how to cook?" He indeed didn't intend to develop new dishes. With his abnormal mental strength, he could recall the cooking methods of many dishes. However, good things had to be developed slowly, right? If he took them all out at once, how boring would that be? Han Yushi wrung her hands and thought seriously. She replied, "I can try, but it would be great if husband could watch from the side." Li Zishuan was slightly surprised. Han Yushi had only seen the entire cooking process of the 5 dishes at the Qin residence yesterday. She could cook by herself after seeing it once. With curiosity and doubt, Li Zishuan replied, "Yes, no problem." Han Yushi smiled happily. Then, she turned around and began to get busy with the Li family's chef, Aunt Zhao, and the 2 maids, cutting the meat, blanching it, drying it, frying it, and steaming it. Next, Han Yushi skillfully followed the steps of Li Zishuan, making braised pork with preserved vegetables yesterday. Li Zishuan, who was watching from the side, only thought that he was cooking. As time slowly passed, the new dishes that Li Zishuan made yesterday, vinegar-spiced radish skin, big bowl of braised pork, white-cut chicken, fried fish pieces, and fried chicken cubes were all perfectly replicated by Han Yushi. "Husband, try the taste." Han Yushi knew that Li Zishuan didn't like to eat fatty meat, so she picked up a piece of fried chicken cubes and handed it to Li Zishuan's mouth. Then she asked, "Oh, genius, genius. Wife, you are actually a genius." Chapter 627. Li Zishuan couldn't help but exclaim in admiration when the fragrant and refreshing fried chicken cubes that were crispy on the outside and tender on the inside entered his mouth. The tenderness of the chicken breast mixed with the aroma of various spices instantly exploded in his mouth and flooded his taste buds. Logically speaking, the standard of Han Yushi's fried chicken was about the same as his. There was even a trace of her own unique style in it. Li Zishuan tasted the taste of home from it. So when he said, "Wife, you're actually a genius," just now, he was sincere. "So, I'm considered qualified?" Han Yushi blinked her eyes and said expectantly. She couldn't help Li Zishuan with the matters of Yanwan College, so she could only hope to be able to share Li Zishuan's worries on these small matters. Therefore, she now looked like an obedient child who had done a good deed and was waiting for her parents to praise her. Li Zishuan couldn't help but laugh when he saw this. "Hee, wife, you're not only qualified, you're even better than your master." The Li family's kitchen maid, Annie Zhao, also laughed at this moment. "I've lived for so long, but I've never seen a young lady with such good culinary skills as young madam. In comparison, this old woman's craftsmanship is somewhat unpresentable." At this moment, she sighed and said, I plan to tell old madam that I'm going back to my hometown at the end of this month. The Lee family has such a virtuous mistress like young madam, who can cook so well. Why would they need me? Although old master and old madam didn't fire me, but hey, Auntie Zhao, don't say such things. Li Zixuan saw that she was getting more and more wrong, so he quickly interrupted. Auntie Zhao, it's true that Yushi's culinary skills are good, but your culinary skills aren't bad either. Otherwise, my father and mother wouldn't have kept you in the residence for so many years. Also, Yushi usually has her own things to do. She can't cook for every meal, right? Even if she's willing, I don't want her to be tired. Don't you think so? When Aunt Zhao heard Li Zixuan's words, she couldn't help but reveal a hint of joy on her face. She hurriedly bowed and said, Hey, young master, you're right. Young madam is Lord Ju's wife. Of course, she can't personally cook every day. She was inexplicably deprived of the right to cook. Han Yushi opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but when she felt her hand being pinched, she quickly shut her mouth. Li Zixuan smiled and said yes. So, Auntie Zhao, you shouldn't talk about going back to your hometown in the future. If you want to go back to your hometown, you could take a few days off. My mother isn't an unreasonable person. Why wouldn't she let you go home? Aunt Zhao hurriedly waved her hands and said, No. Young master, you're exaggerating. Old master and old madam are good people. Young master, young madam, someone from the palace is here. Old master and old madam want you to go to the front yard. As they were talking, San Bao ran to the back kitchen and told Li Zixuan and Han Yushi. Hearing this, the husband and wife looked at each other. Almost at the same time, they guessed why the people from the palace had come at this time. Han Yushi's breathing quickened a bit, and her face showed some excitement. It could be seen that she was forcefully suppressing her excitement, because Li Zixuan felt that the beauty's small hand was still trembling. Wife, let's go quickly then. Don't let the angel wait too long. Li Zixuan squeezed Han Yushi's little hand and chuckled softly. Han Yushi bit her lip and replied with an yes. Then, she let Li Zixuan drag her away. The Tang Empire's emperor decrees that Li Zixuan's wife, Han Yushi, has adhered to her principles ever since she entered the Li family. She is neither arrogant nor rash. She takes care of her husband and herself. She is virtuous and has a pure heart. She is a role model for women in the Tang Empire. This time, the imperial edict was very short. Li Zixuan felt very comfortable listening to it. Even the little eunuch reading the imperial edict was much more pleasing to the eye. Of course, the eunuch reading the imperial edict was not Zhao Song. Our chief steward Zhao is probably still recuperating from his injuries. Han Yushi also felt very comfortable listening to it. As for the reason, it was obviously different from Li Zixuan's. After she married into the Li family, she had accompanied Li Zixuan to listen to many imperial edicts. However, in the past, she was happy because Li Zixuan was rewarded and put in an important position. Today, she was truly happy for herself. I accept the imperial edict. Thank you, your majesty. Han Yushi suppressed the excitement in her heart and walked to the eunuch with dignified steps. She took the imperial edict with both hands. A palace maid next to her saw this and took the opportunity to send the neatly folded noble dress to Han Yushi. Xiaoyi saw that Han Yushi was holding the imperial edict with both hands, and it was not easy to receive the dress. She was very perceptive and helped Han Yushi to receive it. Li Zixuan smiled and waved at San Bao. This matter was originally under his father's care. However, his father had completely abandoned all responsibilities and no longer cared about matters outside the family. Li Zixuan had no choice but to come personally. San Bao brought over the prepared gift tray. Li Zixuan chuckled and said, Little eunuch, it must have been hard on you to come all the way here. Please come in and have a cup of tea. The little eunuch was flattered and said, Lord Ju, you are too courteous. You could just call me Littlin. Mr. Zhao Song, is so close to you. I dare not accept your gift. We still have matters to attend to in the palace, so we will take our leave first. Lord Ju, please wait. After that, He cupped his hands and excused himself from the crowd. Then he left with his men. Lisa Schwan was stunned and couldn't help but wonder, do I look that scary? Well, since they don't want money, I can save some for myself. In just a short while, Madame Li Jingma, and the two little maidservants had already begun to look at the imperial edict. This imperial edict was of great significance. From now on, the Li family had another official position besides Lisa Schwan. Although it was just an empty title, it was a title that all women in the world wanted. Li Gang, Wang Ji, Yin Silu, Mo Huai, and the others who came to the Li family as guests also came out to watch the ceremony when the imperial edict arrived. At this moment, when they saw how happy the family was, they couldn't help but feel happy for Lisa Schwan. Haha, looking at the time, it's time for lunch. Today is a joyous occasion. Father, why don't you accompany the gentleman for a drink or two? Lisa Schwan looked at the time and laughed loudly at Li Jingma and the few old men beside him. Li Jingma and Madame Li only then realized that there were guests in the house today. The two of them quickly restrained their expressions. Li Jingma coughed lightly and said with a flushed face, "Okay, old misters are all people of virtue and prestige. How can this old man not accompany you? Sir, the dishes. Gentlemen, please come in and have a seat." Chapter 628. Wang Ji couldn't help but feel a little disappointed when he saw that there were only 5 dishes and 1 soup on the table. However, when he heard Lisa Schwan say that these were the dishes that Li Er and the others ate at Qin's mansion yesterday, the disappointment in his heart disappeared without a trace. The rest of the people were also flattered. After all, the dishes on the table could be considered a sacred feast to some extent. Lisa Schwan laughed secretly when he saw this. He thought to himself, although these dishes are the same as what Li Er ate yesterday, the person who cooked them is different. However, this doesn't affect much. Han Yushi's culinary skills can completely pass off as genuine. Hey, let this old man try your cooking first and see if it's as good as what they say. Wang Ji couldn't wait to pick up a piece of braised pork with preserved vegetables and stuffed it directly into his mouth. Lisa Schwan frowned and muttered to himself, "This old man is already so old. He better not choke himself to death from eating fatty meat." If Wang Ji knew what Lisa Schwan was thinking, he would definitely roll up his sleeves and fight it out with Lisa Schwan. However, he was destined not to know. Tisk tisk. It's fatty but not greasy. The taste is excellent. To be able to make pork taste so good, this is the first time this old man has seen such a thing in my life. Old man Wang's mouth was full of oil, but he didn't forget to exclaim. At the side, Yin Silu didn't have the time to reprimand Wang Ji for not eating properly because he was also enjoying his meal at the moment. Mo Huai didn't come alone today. When they heard that the Li family had come to the inn to invite Mo Huai for a meal, Mo Zhong and Mo Yun's eyes rolled around. They had been in Chang'an for a few days and had heard a lot about Lisa Schwan, the man of the hour in Chang'an City this year. The Li family's banquet was almost the most delicious in Chang'an City. Of course, they wanted to experience it very much. The two of them spoke up almost at the same time and requested to go together under the pretext of protecting the tycoon. Mo Huai's heart was as clear as a mirror. He originally didn't want to bring the two of them over, but when he saw their eager looks, his heart softened. At this moment, Mo Zhong and Mo Yun could not help but swallow their saliva when they heard Wang Ji's praise. The two brothers guiltily looked at Mo Huai beside them. Seeing that there was no displeasure on Mo Huai's face, they were slightly relieved. Then, they picked up their chopsticks and started attacking the large plate of braised meat on the table. Ugh! As soon as the braised meat entered his mouth, a burst of rich fragrance immediately exploded. The preserved vegetables absorbed the juices of the meat, and the meat also brought out the fragrance of the preserved vegetables. The combination of the two was really incomparable. Mo Zhong and Mo Yun widened their eyes in disbelief. Why is pork so delicious? It was fatty but not greasy, melted in the mouth, and was salty and fresh. How is this pork made? As the last descendants of the Mo family, they had lived in a bitter and cold place for a long time. The high-ranking officials and dignitaries ate beef and mutton, while they could only eat pork during festivals. At that time, they thought that they were eating the best pork in the world, but now, the two brothers stared blankly at the remaining half of the braised pork in their bowls. Their feelings were very complicated. At this moment, they completely understood why people said that no place in Chang and city could compete with the Leaf family in terms of food. As they ate the delicious food, a certain persistence in their hearts began to waver slightly. It's rare for us to gather together today. How can there be meat, but no wine? Come, 3 sirs, let me give you a toast. After hearing Wang Ji's exclamation, Li Zixuan picked up a glass of wine, stood up, and said with a smile. At this time, there were naturally servants who poured wine for them. Of course, it was the best immortal drunken wine. As for the reaction of the two Mo brothers, Li Zixuan naturally saw it and was very satisfied. This was because Mo Huai still had some misgivings about the Mo family entering the world. Since that was the case, Li Zixuan would dispel Mo Huai's misgivings through the other members of the Mo family. It had to be said that Mo Zhong and Mo Yin came at the right time today. Good. Well said, little Xian. This old man is completely convinced by your culinary skills. There's not a single dish on this table that this old man can find fault with. What wine is this? Why is the wine aroma so strong? Wang Ji first praised the dishes on the table sincerely. In just a short while, the old man had already tasted every dish. As he spoke, the maids had already poured the wine. The rich aroma of the immortal drunken wine instantly wafted out. Wang Ji couldn't help but take a deep breath and ask, Wang Wugong, this is the immortal drunken wine, and it's the best immortal drunken wine. The most famous wine in Chang and city this year is none other than this. Yin Silu was also a wine lover. He could tell that the wine in the cup was the immortal drunken wine. However, his love of wine was not the same as Wang Ji's love of wine. The two were fundamentally different. At this moment, he smiled slightly and explained to Wang Ji, immortal drunken wine, this name is good. This old man wants to see if it lives up to its name. Come, brother Jingma, thank you and your son for your hospitality today. Sitting beside Wang Ji was Li Jingma. It was rare for him to think of old man Li at this moment, so he spoke politely. Old man Li's face was flushed red, and he said happily, you're too kind. Gentlemen, you're all full of wisdom. Since you're here to help my son, this old man should be the one toasting you. Come, let this old man drink first. Brother Jingma, you're too kind. Li Gang, Yin Silu, and Mo Huai smiled slightly and also raised their wine cups. However, they didn't dare to drink it in one go because they knew that the wine in the cup was abnormally strong just by smelling it. They couldn't bear it. Cough, cough. This wine is really strong. This old man has also studied the art of winemaking, but I don't know how to make such strong wine. I'll have to ask Xiaoxian for advice later. Wang Ji drank a cup of drunken immortal in one go and almost choked to death. When he recovered, his first reaction was to be concerned about the winemaking method of drunken immortal. Well, if Mr. Wang is interested, we'll talk about it in detail later. Li Zixuan replied. While they were chatting happily, Mo Zhong and Mo Yin didn't have time to pay attention to them. The two of them ate happily. At first, they were afraid of Mo Huai's power and didn't dare to go overboard. However, once they started eating, how could they resist the temptation of delicious food? They opened their stomachs and started eating. Vinegar choking radish skin? Crispy and refreshing, delicious. Big bowl of braised pork, fatty but not greasy, salty and just right delicious. White-cut chicken, fragrant meat, delicious. Fried fish, crispy on the outside and tender on the inside, fresh and delicious. Fried chicken cubes, crispy and tender, also delicious. At first, they felt that there were too few dishes, but now they didn't know which dish to eat. Every dish was the best taste. How could they choose? They could only eat whatever they picked up randomly. Chapter 629. Little Xian, how much of the content in this chemistry book is true? Why do I feel like it's a little mysterious? After the meal, they didn't leave. Instead, they stayed in the main hall and chatted while drinking tea. Wang Ji picked up a book from the table next to him, pointed at the book, and asked Lisa Xuan. It's worth mentioning that Wang Ji drank a lot of Drunken Immortal at noon. At this moment, only his cheeks were red and he wasn't drunk. Lisa Xuan admired his alcohol tolerance from the bottom of his heart. This chemistry book, I can guarantee that it's 100% true. Chemistry is about the study of transformations. If you just look at the book, you'll feel that it's a little mysterious. Lisa Xuan laughed when he heard this. He was still very confident in the course of chemistry. In his previous life, he had been a chemistry class representative and was always at the top of the class in every exam. In this life, he had an abnormal spiritual force, so he was even more confident that he would not make any mistakes. Wang Ji nodded thoughtfully. After a while, he asked tentatively, "This book's structure is really big. It's really rare in the world. Although I didn't have time to read it, based on the first half of the book, doesn't it mean that all substances in the world can be transformed into each other?" Lisa Xuan was slightly stunned. He didn't expect that Wang Ji, this old urchin, would be interested in chemistry. He thought for a while and replied, "If it's based on the transformation between elements, Mr. Wang's theory is correct. But sometimes we have to consider reality because many chemical reactions have very strict requirements for external conditions. For example, temperature, catalyst, etc. If you don't meet certain conditions, even if you put two substances together, they won't have a chemical reaction, let alone complete the transformation between substances." Wang Ji frowned and said in surprise, "This little chemistry actually has so many tricks?" Lisa Xuan laughed and said, "Of course. Strictly speaking, the content of this class covers everything in the world. You have to know that there are millions of substances in the world, and there are even more chemical reactions between them. So there's a lot of knowledge in this." As Wang Ji listened, he pinched his chin and pondered seriously. After a while, he opened the book and pointed to a page. "You use chemical symbols to represent many substances according to their elemental composition. Of course, I don't know if your representation is right or wrong, so I'll follow your thinking first. For example, in this chapter, you said that hydrogen can be burned in oxygen to produce water. According to what you said earlier, doesn't it mean that water can also be converted into hydrogen and oxygen under certain special conditions?" Lisa Xuan was really surprised this time. Wang Ji's way of thinking and his ability to draw inferences was really different from the capable people of this era. Moreover, how long had he been reading this book? How could he reach such a level? He had to admit that geniuses were geniuses. They learned things very quickly. Perhaps this person could really do it. Thinking of this, Lisa Xuan explained seriously, "Sir, you are right. Water can indeed be decomposed into oxygen and hydrogen. If you read further, you will see this in the later chapters. But now I can also explain it to you seriously. The so-called chemical change is the process of molecules being divided into atoms and the atoms being recombined into new molecules. If you read the previous chapters, you will have a general understanding of the concept of molecules and atoms. Hydrogen and oxygen are both diatomic molecules. A water molecule is composed of 3 atoms. In comparison, hydrogen is more active chemically. It can be burned in oxygen. While releasing heat, it can produce more chemically stable water. You can calculate their ratio to be 2:1, 2 according to the number of atoms between the 3. In the process of the reaction, the number of atoms is conserved. Just now, you asked how water can be converted into hydrogen and oxygen. This kid will also explain it to you. Previously, I said that when hydrogen is burned in oxygen, it releases heat and produces more chemically stable water. Now, if you want to turn chemically stable water into chemically active hydrogen and oxygen, we have to pay a certain amount of energy to promote this chemical reaction to proceed normally. What I want to tell you is that no matter when, energy is conserved. Wang Ji was startled. He seemed to have thought of something and muttered involuntarily. Energy conservation, matter conservation, all things engender each other. This little chemistry actually contains the heavenly Tao. In Wang Ji's life, he was an official and retired man. In order to achieve spiritual satisfaction, he studied Taoist culture very much. Moreover, his thoughts and some of his later works were deeply influenced by Taoist culture. At this moment, after listening to Li Zixuan's explanation, he suddenly thought of the Taoist ideology that all things were related to each other and the conservation of yin and yang. Wang Ji, who was originally very interested in chemistry, felt that the door to a new world was opening to him. He wanted to understand this knowledge even more. Then, what kind of energy is needed to turn water into hydrogen and oxygen? Does it need to be heated? No. When we boil water, we don't see water turning into hydrogen and oxygen. After secretly sighing for a while, Wang Ji couldn't help but ask. Li Zixuan was about to explain, but Yin Silu interrupted at this time. Wang Wugong, you just read the book for less than 2 hours, and you're already starting to have ideas? Don't pretend to know when you don't and make a fool of yourself in front of the juniors. Li Zixuan talked about chemistry with Wang Ji, but Li Gang, and Mo Huai were confused and didn't understand half of it. After being depressed for a long time, he finally couldn't help but ask. Puffed. Wang Ji curled his lips and sneered. You Yin Kongue can't do it, but it doesn't mean that I, Wang Ji, can't do it. I've long said that I, Wang Ji, am better than you. I'm better at learning everything fast, but you didn't believe it. Wang Wugong, how arrogant of you. You only know some superficial knowledge. How can you brag here? Do you have any shame? How could Yin Silu stand such humiliation? So he said angrily. Wang Ji retorted, a little? It's indeed a little, but I can understand a little in less than 2 hours. Doesn't this mean that I'm a faster learner than you? Now, Yin Kong, do you dare to say that I, Wang Ji, am not worth a monthly salary of 5 buckets of wine? Yin Silu said indignantly. Yinhuan College is going to be the elite college of the Tang Dynasty in the future. How can I ask you, a teacher who only knows a little, to mislead the students? Not to mention 5 buckets of wine. In my opinion, even 1 bucket of wine is too much for you. Humph. I only know a little now, but it doesn't mean that I'll be like this when school starts. Yin Kongue, do you dare to make a bet with me? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.